Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto ate a devil fruit. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. In Konohagakure, it was a pretty normal day. The Sandaime Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, was even busier than usual. However, not only was he tackling a ninja's greatest enemy paperwork, he was also babysitting a 4-year-old Uzumaki Naruto. Currently, Naruto was playing with a little fox plushie. Although Sarutobi was glad that Naruto was enjoying the stuffed toy, he knew that the little ball of energy with the image of a fox brought some rather distasteful memories to the forefront of the wizened old shinobi's thoughts. Minato, wasn't there any other way? This village is not the same without you. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. Now who could that be? Enter. The door opened, and a familiar white-haired figure stepped into the room. Well, hello, Jiraiya, what brings you here? A rather mischievous smirk appeared on the Sanin's face. Well, first, he reached behind his back and took out a small, orange book. I came to give my biggest fan a free copy of my latest book. Jiraiya tossed it, and Sarutobi quickly caught it and placed it in his desk drawer, a blush on his face. And Jiraiya's smirk was replaced by a very grim look that was all business. He pulled out a very strange, orange and white fruit, covered in spikes and swirl markings, and placed it on the desk. Sarutobi looked at his old student quizzically, his expression alone asking Jiraiya to explain. From what I could gather, this is apparently a devil fruit. Supposedly, if one were to eat it, they would gain an ability akin to a Kekkei Genkei, but in exchange, that person would be cursed by the sea. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow. That is, a person who has eaten of the cursed fruit loses all ability to move when submerged in water, and they lose the capability to float. Elder of the two nodded. But why a curse like that? Well, these are supposed to be the fruits of the sea devil. Not only that, but the only place that they can be found is deep in the Grand Line, a chain of islands along the equator. All it would take to kill the owner of the devil fruit's powers would be to push them off a boat or something. And since the majority of these cursed warriors live life as a sailor of some kind, their lives are in almost constant danger. Hiruzen nodded again. I see. And since our nations are separate from the world government, they don't know anything about ninjutsu or genjutsu. I had a somewhat tough time with one of them, and he obviously wasn't a trained warrior. He solely relied on his abilities to get him by. Now, if I had a tough time with a non-ninja, imagine the possibilities of what a ninja could do. 'Cause that's exactly what Orochimaru's thinking. Hiruzen's eyes widened. Orochimaru, does he have one of these devil fruits? Jiraiya nodded. I don't think he has plans for using it on himself, though. My guess, he's gonna try and somehow replicate the fruit's powers while removing the curse. I see. What kinds of powers do these fruits give, anyways? Well, there are 3 general classes of devil fruits. The first class is called Paramecia. Paramecia fruits physically alter your body structure, allowing you to do things that even ninja can't do, such as separate your body parts like a nin puppet, or turn your very limbs into blades. Then, there are Logia class fruits, which give a person command over a certain element, as well as the ability to convert their body into that element, like fire or ice. The last class, the type that I believe this fruit belongs to, is the Zone class. Zone class fruits give the users the ability to transform into one of 3 different forms: their original form, a full-on animal form, and a hybrid of the two. The animal varies with the fruit eaten. Alright, what fruit is this? I had it checked out, and this is apparently a fruit called the Inu no Mi. Model Kitsune 1. I like to call it the Kitsu no Mi for short. Oh, yeah, all of the fruits follow this weird naming system. How these people can even tell what powers you get from a fruit, I will never know, but anyways, this one should give the consumer fox-related powers. Naruto's eyes widened. Unbeknownst to the 2 elderly shinobi, Naruto had been listening to every word. Sure, he didn't know what in the world most of those words even meant, but he was still listening. He got the gist of it. That fruit on the desk would give him fox powers if he ate it, but it'd be a real bad idea to go near water afterwards. Hey, if I eat that fruit, they won't be able to make me take a bath anymore. And I get cool fox powers. I think I just got my moti reason to eat healthy. Stealthily climbing onto the desk, Naruto dashed for the fruit and grabbed it. Jiraiya tried to grab the fruit, but when he picked it up, Naruto was hanging off of it. Jiraiya tried to pull Naruto off of the fruit, but before he was successful, Naruto took a chunk off of the fruit and swallowed. The Sandaime and the Sannin stood there, horrified at what had happened. After a moment, Jiraiya regained composure. "So, kid, I guess you were listening to us, huh? My name's Naruto, don't you forget it." Jiraiya thought it was rather cute that he was trying to be threatening. "Alright, Naruto, why don't you try testing out your new powers?" Naruto, of course, was more than eager to do so. Squinting his eyes in concentration, Naruto felt really weird for a sec, and then realized he was on all fours. Opening his eyes, he saw that he now had paws, and that everything looked even bigger than before. I was expecting him to turn into a bit more of a normal fox. Naruto quickly looked around, and ran up to the window, hoping to see his reflection in it. What he saw horrified him. He had turned into some tiny fox, with humongous ears. Not to mention clothes and very uncomfortable sandals. WHWH, what kind of fox is that? Naruto put a paw to his mouth. He had just talked. Normal foxes didn't talk. Heck, normal foxes didn't have big ears, either. The wizened Hokage sighed. A fennec? I guess Kyuubi must have influenced the choice of species, though he couldn't change the size. That's a fennec fox, Naruto. Not the biggest fox around, but when it comes to being a ninja, bigger is not always better. Naruto turned around. Wait, a ninja? Hiruzen nodded. Well, it would be a waste to have someone of your uniqueness to live their life as a villager. Besides, I doubt you'd be happy as a normal boy, anyways. Naruto nodded. Yeah, the normal kids are all mean and stuff. Who would want to be like that? Hiruzen sighed at the thought. Naruto's life was pretty much miserable, even at this age. Few people choose to be like that. Naruto. Naruto looked up at the Hokage, the eagerness apparent even in his very small eyes. So, when do we get started? I want to be the best ninja ever. All flying around and blowing stuff up and... Jiraiya laughed. I think you have us confused with someone else, too. A ninja is silent, a ninja is swift, and most of all, a ninja is deadly. Oh, I can totally do deadly. Watch. Naruto's fur bristled as he growled at Jiraiya. Sure, kid, sure, I'm paralyzed with fear. You're going to have to do better than that, Naruto. Naruto closed his eyes in concentration. They said that he had 3 forms, right? After a moment, Sarutobi and Jiraiya were shocked when Naruto started growing, and growing, until he was taller than Jiraiya, at around 7 feet tall. He was rather lean, with sandy-colored fur and a fox head that had regular-sized ears. Somehow, Naruto's clothes had changed size as well, although his shoes were now ruined, due to the shape of his feet. A bushy tail came out of his pants, swaying back and forth behind him. Do I scare you now? Jiraiya sighed. You almost had me there, kid. And then you ruined it with that voice of yours. 3. Naruto growled, which still didn't sound scary, and Jiraiya laughed. I don't care how powerful you are, that will never be scary. Hiruzen chuckled at the exchange. I guess he affected the size, after all. Well, then, we best get you started with training, then, Naruto? Some kids already have a head start on you when it comes to being a ninja. Naruto's jaw dropped in shock. What? But, who's gonna train me? I don't have parents or anything. The Sandaime's eyes darkened for a moment, and then they returned back to their normal brilliance. Jiraiya, how long has it been since you've had an apprentice? Jiraiya put his hand up to his chin and pondered the question. Well, not since Mina. Oh no. I am not taking him as my apprentice. I don't care what you say. The ladies might get the wrong idea. Hiruzen sighed. Well, then, I guess I'll train you then, Naruto. But you don't look like a ninja or anything. Kid, he's the Hokage. That means he's the strongest ninja in the entire village. Really? Cool. Hey, wait, don't you have paperwork and stuff? A chuckle escaped from the old man's lips. Don't worry, Naruto. I still have plenty of free time in my schedule, even though it might not look that way. Alright, when do we start? As soon as you want to, Naruto. Just not today, I'm particularly busy today. Naruto pouted and returned to his normal form. Why don't you go wait outside, Naruto? There's some more stuff I want to talk to Jiraiya about. Naruto continued pouting, but as he left the room, there was a smirk clearly written on his face. After he closed the door, Jiraiya started to say something, but then there was a loud shriek of, Kitsune. From downstairs. Cursing loudly, Jiraiya almost ripped the door off of its hinges and ran down the hall. Hiruzen chuckled. The future is going to be very interesting. Over the next few days, Naruto trained with Hiruzen, i.e., he started to read scrolls. But not just any scrolls, oh, no, these were the legendary, how to read, ABC-darian, scrolls that had been sealed away a long time ago, due to driving people who tried to use them insane. But Naruto, little child that he was, rather enjoyed them. He just wished that they weren't scrolls. Maybe a TV show would be better? He scratched that thought. They'd probably choose a little girl or something as the voice. On that line of thought, he also wondered if Sarutobi had a TV somewhere in the tower, as they didn't even have one at the orphanage. Heck, even if they had one, they wouldn't let him watch it. Right now, Naruto wasn't inside reading scrolls. He was training on how to use his monster form best. He decided that using his full-on fox form was forbidden. He hated that form. Besides, he rather enjoyed this monster form. He felt more mature, not to mention that he was probably now the tallest person in the village. His eyes darkened at the thought of the village. Why do they hate me, anyways? What did I ever do to deserve it? They keep calling me demon and monster. Actually, I guess that's true now. Can they see into the future or something? Scary. He decided it was probably best to not show anybody his powers. After all, that woman had almost fainted at the sight of his puny little fox form. Who knows how they react to a giant, monster fox thing? They'd probably try to kill him. After all, they had tried to kill him before, hadn't they? Naruto turned around when he heard someone behind him, relieved that it was just the Hokage. What are you doing here? Don't you have paperwork or something? Hiruzen sighed. Naruto, I told you, I have a lot more time than you think I do. Besides, I wanted to oversee your training. He took out his pipe and let out a puff of smoke. While it is all well and good that you want to train with your new form, do not forget that you have 3 forms. Why don't you train in your fox form for a little bit? Naruto pouted, which looked really weird. But that puny little thing can't hurt anything like this form can. Hiruzen let a puff of smoke escape his pipe. Naruto, does it look like I could take you down? Naruto shook his head. In an instant, Naruto was on the ground, the wind knocked out of him, with the old man standing on top of him. And yet, I'm the strongest ninja in the village. Fine. Hiruzen got off of him, and Naruto quickly changed into his tiny little fox form. Now what do I do? Why don't you try running around? Naruto nodded, and did exactly that. He was surprised. He was going a lot faster than he thought he could go. Heck, he was going a lot faster than he'd ever gone before. Wow, I'm going really fast, sensei, too. Hiruzen chuckled at Naruto's childishness. It's been a long time since anyone called me that. Naruto stopped running around, and transformed back to his human form. You mean you've taught other ninja, too? Hiruzen nodded. What were they like? Well, you've already met Jiraiya. Him? He's nothing but a big pervert. Where did you hear about that? Well, I found him near the hot springs yesterday. I snuck up on him and scared him half to death. Before he could yell at me, all of the women in the hot springs started yelling, pervert, and threw stuff at him. Sarutobi smirked at the thought of his old student running from a mob of angry women. Remember, Naruto, it is a very bad thing to be a pervert. Next time you see Jiraiya at the hot springs, do it again, alright? Naruto nodded, grinning ear to ear. Who else did you teach? Well, there was also Tsunade. She is renowned for her legendary beauty and strength. Naruto snorted in contempt. How strong could she have been? She's a girl. Hiruzen smiled at Naruto's naivety. Well, you see that boulder over there? Naruto nodded. Well, she could crush it with one finger. Naruto paled. He didn't know anyone could be that strong. Did you teach anyone else, sensei? Hiruzen's smile turned into a slight frown. There was one more. His name is Orochimaru. Naruto shivered. No offense, but that name even sounds evil. Hiruzen looked up at the clouds. None taken, Naruto. You see, at first, Orochimaru was the pinnacle of what it meant to be a ninja. I even considered him to be the Yondaime. Naruto was puzzled. Then why didn't you make him the Yondaime? The Sandaime sighed as he looked back towards Naruto. As he grew, so did his thirst for knowledge. At first, it was a good thing, but then he started delving into kinjutsu techniques that no ninja should know. Naruto nodded, listening eagerly. His desire overpowered him and corrupted him. He began experimenting on human beings, using them to test techniques that he couldn't risk actually using himself. After I declared that someone else would be Yondaime, he was exposed for the murderer that he was, and fled Konoha, swearing his revenge on this village, and me as well. Naruto looked down for a moment, and then looked back up. So, who was your sensei, sensei? Hiruzen smiled. Naruto was certainly interested in the past. Actually, I had two senseis, the Shodem and the Nidaime Hokages. Naruto looked up at the old man with admiration in his eyes. Hey, sensei, do you think I could be Hokage someday? The old Hokage stroked his small beard and thought. I don't know, Naruto, not only does it require you to be extremely strong and wise, you must also make a big commitment to protect everyone in this entire village, even the ones you don't like, and the ones who don't like you. Naruto nodded. I'll do anything. If I'm Hokage, the villagers will look up to me. If I protect them, they won't treat me like I'm the bad guy anymore. Naruto? Huh? No matter what the villagers say, you are Uzumaki Naruto, a loyal member of this village. Remember that. Okay? After Naruto was done training, which wasn't until deep into the night, he decided it was best to try and head back to the orphanage despite the fact that he was no doubt locked out for the night. Turning a corner, somebody ran into him. Looking up, it was some ninja wearing a veil over most of his face. Phew, just a kid. Of course, Naruto did not like being called, just, a kid. Hey, my name's Uzumaki Naruto. Remember it? Yeah? Brushing off the annoying brat, the ninja moved onwards. Watching him leave, Naruto saw something on his back, a bound and gagged, blue-haired girl, her white eyes full of fear and pleading him for help. Hey, you, stop right there. Now, of course, being a shinobi, the guy didn't stop. Naruto quickly switched into his fox form and ran after him, using his hybrid form to jump up to the rooftops. Switching back to his fox form, he chased after the man, and once he was close enough, jumped onto his back and started chewing at the girl's restraints. The little girl, being wise for her rather young age, did not make a sound. The man smirked under his veil when the girl became still. About time you stopped struggling. As soon as Naruto bit through the last one, he switched to his human form, grabbed her, jumped off of the guy, and switched to his monster form, allowing them a safe landing. Having almost fallen over from Naruto's kickoff, he turned around and saw Naruto in his human form, untying the girl's gag. Why, you little brat. I don't know how you did it, but you're going to pay for it. Naruto smirked, and transformed into his little fox form and ran straight at the nin. The man was surprised, but threw a kunai, hoping to hit his mark. Naruto, who was moving really fast, dodged it. As Naruto got right under him, the nin was surprised when he was uppercutted by a monstrous fist. As he was falling, he looked around, only to find nothing where the fox thing had been. Looking behind him, he saw a giant monster of a man ready to throw a punch. Much to the nin's displeasure, he threw it. Naruto, now in his human form, walked over to the young girl, fear still in her eyes. Hey, are you okay? The little girl had stopped trembling, and nodded. Good, 'cause if you weren't, I wouldn't know what to do. The girl couldn't help but laugh. Hinata, are you alright? Father. Hinata ran up to the man that had seemingly appeared out of nowhere. He had long brown hair and flowing white robes. Most importantly, he had white eyes, just like his daughter. Are you alright? What happened? The bad man came to take me away, but she pointed at Naruto, saved me. He did he? Naruto flinched under the white-eyed man's gaze. Naruto knew that for some reason, everybody in the village hated him. He didn't know why, but they did. You are Uzumaki Naruto, correct? Naruto meekly nodded. I am in your debt, young one. Tell me, do you know who this girl is? Naruto couldn't believe it, this guy was being nice to him. Still averting his gaze, he answered meekly, Hinata, right? Is she your daughter? Hiyashi observed the young boy. Maybe he wasn't the demon everybody made him out to be. That's right. She is the heiress to the most powerful clan in Konoha. While Naruto's jaw dropped, a voice called out, I wouldn't say the most powerful clan in Konoha, Hiyashi. Hiyashi scowled as several members of the Konoha MP arrived, headed by Fugaku. How nice of you to join us. Naruto also scowled, recognizing the bad men who had tried to take him away lots of times, saying he had done stuff he certainly didn't remember doing. Hiyashi, what exactly is going on here? We may be shinobi, but even we like to have our sleep. Well, that man, he pointed to the nin, who had been embedded in a wall, tried to kidnap my daughter, Hinata. Fugaku's gaze passed over Hinata, who almost fainted, and decided it would be best to hide behind her father's legs, and settled on Naruto. "What are you doing here, boy?" Naruto flinched. Well, I was trying to find my way to the orphanage, when I ran into that guy over there, again. Pointing at the guy was rather deeply embedded into the wall, giving the MP a hard time in removing him, and when I saw that he had Hinata on his back, I called for help, and then Hiyashi-san came and saved her. Hiyashi looked at him questionably. Why did he feel the need to lie about what happened to the police? Had he had some bad run-ins with them in the past? Fugaku looked like he was about to say something, when he was interrupted by an MP. "Sir, we believe that the injured man is the head ninja of Kumogakure, who was here for the peace talks." Fugaku nodded, and turned towards Hiyashi. "Perhaps there is more here than meets the eye. Well, I guess I'll be seeing you in court, Hiyashi, Hinata." He turned towards Naruto. "Uzumaki, I'm sure we can find out the whole story from the guy in the crater. Interrogation ought to have it out of him in no time." The MPs finished extracting the cloud nin from his hole, and the whole lot of them vanished. Hiyashi turned to Naruto. "What were you doing out here, Naruto?" "Well, I was trying to find my way back to the orphanage from the training grounds." "The training grounds?" "Yeah, Sensei is training me to be a great ninja like him." "Is that so? Looks like his training is working. Who is your sensei?" "The Hokage. And one day, I'm going to be Hokage, too." Hiyashi looked at his daughter for a moment. "It looks like you already have a good start. I wish you luck, Naruto." "Thanks. I better get back to the orphanage. They've probably locked me out already, but thanks to Sensei's training, I might be able to sneak in this time." Hiyashi was surprised. The boy had already been locked out before? Hiyashi pondered the situation. Well, the boy had saved his daughter's life. "Naruto, how would you like to sleep at our place tonight?" Naruto got sparkles in his eyes. Really? Sure, it's the least I can do to repay what you've done." Thank you, Mr. Hiyashi." The Sandame stood in front of a large crowd. The nin who had attempted to kidnap Hinata beside him, his face still covered by a veil due to disfigurement. This man has admitted to his crime against Konohagakure and Kumogakure. In order to keep the peace treaty, will strip him of his rank and have him live in shame among his fellow shinobi. Court dismissed. As people shuffled out, the former shinobi Gashira saw a little tuft of blonde hair in the crowd. "Hey, my name's Uzumaki Naruto. Remember it?" "Oh, you bet I will. Uzumaki Naruto, the one who caused me to fail my mission and shamed me in front of the entire world. I will remember, until the day I kill you." As the now greatly shamed ninja walked out, escorted by fellow Cloud Nin, Hiyashi walked up to Sandame. "Excuse me, Sandame-sama." "Yes, Hiyashi? Do you mind if we talk somewhere, private?" "About what?" "Your new apprentice." Sandame's eyes widened. Meet me in my office in a few minutes. I'll be right along." "Alright, Sandame-sama, spit it." There's no way Naruto should have been able to defeat that ninja, and yet he did. No training, no matter how intense, could have prepared him for that kind of battle in such a short time. Here is inside. "Well, I guess you deserve to know. After all, it was your daughter that Naruto saved with his newfound abilities." Hiyashi raised an eyebrow. "New abilities?" Hiruzen nodded. "I'm sure you probably heard the rumors. Few things go faster than gossip. All I've heard was that the man mentioned a fox demon while being interrogated." "Does this have to do with the Kyuubi, then?" "Actually, no. You see, a few days ago, Naruto ate of the devil's fruit." Hiyashi raised his other eyebrow. "I always presumed that to be more of an expression than anything else." The Hokage took a puff of his pipe. "You see, Jiraiya brought it in while Naruto was in here. Needless to say, we hadn't expected Naruto to make a mad dash for the fruit. Until then, he had shown disdain for fruits, vegetables, and anything remotely healthy. We discovered from that experience that one bite is all it takes for the devil fruit's powers to manifest themselves in a person, as well as make the fruit into a useless, disgusting, and not very nutritious piece of food." "And what exactly were these powers given to Naruto?" "Well, the devil fruit gave Naruto the ability to change in between one of three forms at will. The first being the one you most recognize, his normal, human self. And the others? The second form is that of a fennec fox. Small, generally harmless by itself, but when you give such a thing a human mind, no, a shinobi mind, and you have a way to get into small access tunnels, cracks in the walls, and other places that the average shinobi could not go through. Not to mention that this form is much faster than any woodland creature has a right to be. Probably has something to do with Kyuubi, but we don't know for sure. I see, in the third form? I presume it has to be something powerful for that man to attribute his defeat to a demon fox. The third form is some monstrosity, some fusion of man and beast. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that Naruto had been one of Orochimaru's experiments. Standing straight, he is certainly taller than most of the shinobi in the village, standing at nearly 210 centimeters tall. The form is rather lean, but the muscles are hidden beneath the fur, befitting a shinobi. The legs especially seem a little thin as compared to a human's legs, but I have found that those legs are definitely power-packed, even if the power is compacted a little. And just how was he able to defeat the shinobi, then? Well, like I said, he can switch from form to form at will. It only takes an instant to switch between them. Naruto told me that he used his fox form to dash up to the man, and then quickly switched to his monster form to attack him. Hiyashi nodded. Most ninja would be caught off guard by that tactic, but as he grows older, Naruto will need to adjust his tactics, especially if his opponent knows how he fights. Hiruzen nodded. You can see why I've taken him to be my apprentice. Naruto is now probably one of, if not the most unique person on the planet. Hiyashi nodded. That is probably very true. Do you know of anyone else who has these powers? The Sandaime let out another puff of smoke. Well, the devil fruits don't exist anywhere other than the equator, the Grand Line. Outside of these nations connected on our landmass, shinobi do not exist, but warriors who have eaten of the fruit are not uncommon. Naruto is, or rather, will become a fusion of the two greatest kinds of warriors on our planet. He is certainly blessed with the devil's luck. And what makes you use that expression? Besides a sad attempt at humor? Naruto may grow to be a powerful shinobi later on in life, but right now, he is hated by almost every person in this village. Not only that, but thanks to the devil fruit's curse, he can't be submerged in water. Really? Hiruzen inwardly cursed himself for that one. He wasn't really supposed to tell anyone about that. Yes, it is his curse, well, besides bearing the Kyuubi, anyways. Being submerged in water will paralyze him, or, so I'm told. We haven't tested that theory yet. That's understandable. I presume that you're going to teach him the water walking exercise? If he can learn it. It'll be a while before that, though. I'll just teach him what they teach the kids at the academy for a while. I don't know whether or not I should let him attend. Even if the other kids don't know about the Kyuubi, they sense their parents' hatred for him, and mimic it. I've seen Naruto and Hinata together, though. They may have only known each other since last night, but they are already good friends. I believe that Hinata is the first person even close to his age to be nice to him. Yes, Hinata is acting a lot less shy than usual. Their friendship will probably last a long time, and will most likely be beneficial to the both of them. The Hokage let a small smile escape his lips. We'll just have to wait and see what the future holds, now won't we? Naruto and Hinata were in the main hall of the Hokage Tower, Naruto waiting for their meeting to be over so he could resume his training, Hinata simply waiting for her father, coloring with crayons and generally having a good time. Farther down the hall, two black eyes watched the two friends laughing and having fun. A shadow came over the eyes. Why don't you go and play with them, Sasuke? Sasuke looked up. It's alright. Big brother, they look like they're having enough fun without me. Besides, I like playing with you. Well, little one, my team just got here, so I have to go report to the Hokage now. Much to Sasuke's dismay, the 9-year-old Itachi got up and grabbed his hand, and almost dragged him over to the other two children. Naruto and Hinata looked up to see Itachi standing over them. Excuse me, but would you mind letting my little brother play with you? He doesn't really have any friends, and I have to go talk to the Hokage now. Sasuke peeked out from behind Itachi's legs. Big brother, I do too have friends. They're just not here right now, that's all. While Itachi chuckled, Naruto gave a slight scowl when he saw the Uchiha crest on their clothes. Hinata, however, was more than willing to give the boy a chance. Naruto, seeing that Hinata was willing, also decided to give Sasuke a chance. Hey, Itachi, you coming? Itachi turned around to see his squad mates, another Uchiha among them, waiting for him. Hi, I'll be right there. Sasuke, You be a good boy now, okay? Sasuke merely scowled as Itachi and his team went on upstairs. As they went up, they passed Hiyashi, who had just finished speaking with the Sandame. Hiyashi saw Naruto and Sasuke playing with Hinata, and, unlike his old self would have done, smiled. The Sandame's words echoed in his mind. We'll just have to wait and see what the future holds, now won't we? Hiyashi's smile grew a bit more. And what an interesting future it will be. Iruka looked at his clipboard. He only had 26 students, one of the teams didn't quite have 3 members. Iruka sighed. The Sandame said he would take care of it, but Iruka didn't see who he could place on a team with Uchiha Sasuke and Hyuga Hinata and consider the team balanced. Mizuki scowled in his seat. His plan didn't quite work out. Not a single student had failed in their attempts to pass. It looked like he would have to do the job himself. As he got to work on his plan, he was only lightly listening to Iruka give out the team listings. Team 7 will consist of Uchiha Sasuke and Hyuga Hinata. Since there are only 26 students in this class, you'll have someone transferred into your squad. All fangirls in the immediate vicinity were immediately jealous. It was a well-known fact that Hinata was as close to being a friend to Sasuke as anyone could really get. They had been pretty close before the massacre, but he grew distant from everyone afterwards, including his best friends. Team 8 will consist of Inuzuka Kiba, Aburame Shino, and Haruno Sakura. Sakura stood up and pointed to Kiba. Why do I have to be on the same team as this mangy mutt instead of with Sasuke? Iruka coughed, while Kiba growled in indignancy. 1. You shouldn't talk about your teammates like that. 2. You may have book smarts, but that doesn't do you much good in the real world. Kiba and Shino can show you how to survive out there. Plus, Sandame himself suggested that we put Sasuke and Hinata together. You don't feel like disobeying his orders, do you? Ashamed, Sakura sat down, while Kiba sniggered. No, sensei. Ino chuckled. I feel bad for you, forehead girl. I'd feel terrible if I got stuck with someone like Kiba. Sakura growled. Watch it, piggy. Iruka coughed to regain everyone's attention. Team 9 is still in circulation. Team 10 will consist of Shikamaru Nara, Akamichi Choji, and Yamanaka Ino. Ino was crushed. Before she could complain, Iruka continued speaking. You are all to meet up with your senseis in here after lunch. Why don't you use the time until then to get to know your new teammates better? Everyone filed out of the classroom after that. Hinata walked with Sasuke. I wonder who will be put on our team? Sasuke snorted. I'll give you 3 guesses as to who the Sandame would force onto our team. Hinata gasped. But he wasn't trained at the academy, and we haven't seen him in quite a while. A voice came from behind them. Since when have I let anything stop me from getting what I wanted? They both turned and were not too surprised to see Naruto standing there. He had changed quite a bit since they had last seen him. He had on an orange jacket, but it was open, exposing his bare chest and almost giving Hinata a nosebleed. He also had on orange shorts as well, and the typical kunai pouch that almost every ninja had was missing. He still had on a waist pouch, and his hite-8 was around his neck. Hinata had a deep blush on her face. Naruto. Sasuke smirked. It's been a while. What did you do, get arrested? Naruto, hemphed. I wasn't arrested. Not even the Anbu can catch me. Hinata let out a sigh of relief. Where were you, Naruto? Naruto gave that smile that would make girls melt if they didn't hate him so much it almost made Hinata faint. I was getting some training done. I spend most of my time learning politics and stuff, so I really needed some time to work on my ninja skills. He lifted up a picnic basket that had mysteriously gone unnoticed until now. What do you guys say to some lunch? Might treat. Sasuke smirked. Good, I'm starved. They sat under the tree with the swing. Several other teams were hanging around too. Naruto dug into his basket. Let's see. I got cinnamon rolls for Hinata. He handed them to her. She was obviously very delighted. I've also got some tomatoes for you, Sasuke. He hemphed and took one, biting into it and very much relishing how much tomato juice looked like Itachi's blood. 1. From afar, Team 8 or more specifically, Sakura and Kiba watched Team 7 from a nearby lunch table. Sakura was confused. Who's that guy? I haven't seen him around. Kiba nodded. I don't like him. There's something off about him. Ever since he showed up, there's been a distinct smell of fox in the air. Sakura looked at Kiba skeptically. You can smell him from here? Kiba nodded and smirked. Special Inuzuka clan technique. We can amplify our senses. Sakura looked back at Naruto, and then at Sasuke. She blinked, and then blinked again. Was Sasuke smiling? It was official, there was something odd about the new guy. Nobody had been able to make Sasuke smile, not even Hinata. Meanwhile, Kiba was making a slightly different observation. Ever since that fox boy had shown up, Hinata had been blushing almost non-stop. He could only deduce that she liked him a lot. He growled. Hinata should be on his team, not some fox boys. Everyone knew foxes were infamous for their deceiving nature. He would not let his friend be harmed by his lies. 2. After lunch, everyone filed back into the classroom. The entire class was abuzz, wondering who this new kid was. He sat right between Hinata and Sasuke, taking the seat before any of Sasuke's fangirls had gotten to it. After a minute, Jonin began entering the room. A woman by the name of Yuhi Kurenai had taken Team 8, something that very much relieved Sakura of her worries about this team. Team 10 was picked up by a man named Sarutobi Asuma. He waved to Naruto as he left, leaving behind several confused genin. Eventually, after everyone had finally left, the members of Team 7 became very bored. Their sensei had not yet arrived, and it was starting to irritate Sasuke and Naruto. Sasuke snorted. Where's the person who was assigned to us? Naruto sighed. If we got the sensei I think we got, then it's going to be a while before he shows up. Naruto got up and walked over to the chalkboard. Hinata lifted up her head, she had been napping. What are you doing, Naruto? Naruto lifted up an eraser. Well, what do you think I'm doing? Sasuke rolled his eyes. It looks like you're about to pull the old eraser in the door trick. Naruto gave his fox grin. Ah, but that's not the only thing I'm going to do. Hey, you wouldn't mind letting me borrow some kunai, would ya? As Kakashi walked down the hall towards the classroom that contained the genin wannabes, he started thinking about what these kids might be like. The Uchiha is probably pretty stuck up, and focused on vengeance. The Hyuga will probably just as stuck up as the Uchiha. And Uzumaki. I have the distinct feeling I've heard his name before. As he approached the door, he saw an eraser in the door. He sighed. Must be Uzumaki's handiwork. I'll just play along for now. As he opened the door and put his head in, he let the eraser harmlessly bounce off of his head. However, as it fell, he noticed that there was a string attached to it that couldn't have been viewed from the hallway. A string that led to. Kakashi didn't have any more time to think as he got out of the doorway and several kunai passed through the space that he had previously been occupying, leaving a Kakashi-shaped outline of kunai on the far hallway wall. Peeking back into the classroom, he saw that the dark-haired boy was smirking. The girl was sighing in relief, presumably from Kakashi not getting impaled, and the blonde boy was rolling on the floor, laughing his head off. Now I remember, Uzumaki Naruto, Konohagakure's #1 prankster, as well as the vessel for the Kyuubi. Kakashi walked into the room and stood up straight, putting his hand on his chin. Let's see, my first impression of you guys, you've got style, but it takes more than just style to get you through as a shinobi. Meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. Ciao. Kakashi then burst into a cloud of smoke, leaving a chuckling Naruto, a smirking Sasuke, and a slightly red Hinata. Naruto managed to get up. Hey guys, did you see his face when he saw the kunai? Hilarious. Hinata spoke up. But Naruto, he could have been seriously hurt. Sasuke shook his head, but he wasn't. I'm assuming you know this guy, Naruto, as the kunai trap was a perfect outline of him. Naruto chuckled some more. Yeah, I know him. I'll talk about it later, though. We really should get to the roof. Once they got to the roof, Kakashi had them all sit in a row. Hinata on his left, Naruto right in front of him, and Sasuke on his right. Well, then, I assume you all know each other pretty well, but we'll have introductions just in case. Name, hobbies, likes, dislikes, dreams for the future, that kind of thing. Hinata pushed her fingers together. Why don't you go first, sensei? Kakashi put his hand on his chin. Let's see, my name is Hitaki Kakashi. My likes and dislikes are none of your business. As for my hobbies, dreams of the future, well, that's about it. They looked at him incredulously. Hinata spoke up. You only told us your name. Kakashi looked at her. The ever-famous Hyuga eye for detail. The sarcasm was practically dripping off of his words. Alright then, why don't you give it a try? Hinata blushed. My name is Hyuga Hinata. I like my friends. At this point she glanced toward Naruto, and I like flowers. I don't like people who judge others based on appearances or preconceptions. My hobbies include training and flower pressing. As for dreams of the future, she glanced towards Naruto again. I want to become a strong shinobi so that I can live up to my clan's expectations, and prove to them I'm not as weak as everyone thinks I am. Naruto looked at her quizzically. Who thinks you're weak, Hinata? Hinata blushed. Kakashi quickly intervened. Okay, Blondie, you're next. Naruto grinned and stood up. My name's Uzumaki Naruto. I like my friends, and I dislike people who hate others for no good reason. My hobbies include training, studying, and pulling pranks on people. As for dreams of the future, that's easy. I'm going to be Hokage one day. Kakashi's sweat dropped. He remembered that the Hokage himself had been training this kid, so it wouldn't be a surprise if he did end up becoming Hokage. He turned to Sasuke. Alright then, Broody, it's your turn. Sasuke, H-end. I'm Uchiha Sasuke. I don't particularly like anything, but I dislike it when people are rude to my friends, and I also despise fangirls. My hobby is training. As for my dreams, I'm going to revive my clan, and kill a certain man. Naruto glared at him. Sasuke sighed. Fine, we're going to kill a certain man. Kakashi's sweat dropped. He hadn't quite been expecting that last part. He clapped his hands together. Well, then, now that we all know each other better, I'll inform you of a little survival exercise we're to do tomorrow. Naruto stood up. Hey, wait a moment. I thought we were going to do some missions first. Kakashi's eye rolled over so it was staring at Naruto. But first I have to test you to see if you're really worthy of being ninja. Hinata's eyes widened a little. What do you mean by that, sensei? Kakashi chuckled. It sent chills down the genin's spines. Well, you didn't really think that those simple tests that the academy gave you make you ninja, do you? Naruto looked like he was about to say something. And just because you get the Hokage's say-so doesn't mean you get my say-so. I want you all to meet me by training grounds 7 at 0800. Oh, and don't eat breakfast. You'll end up tossing it later. With that, he poofed away. Naruto's stomach growled. Hee, I'm kinda hungry. You guys wanna go get something to eat? Hinata nodded, while Sasuke, H-end. Alright, just you wait, Kakashi-sensei. We'll pass that test for sure. Naruto had, finally, finished his ramen, and patted his stomach in satisfaction. Man, there isn't anybody in all of Konoha who can cook like you, old man. Tucci nodded his thanks and returned to cooking. Naruto turned to his teammates. Alright, who's up for some training? Hinata looked at him quizzically. Training? Why? Naruto looked at her as though it were obvious. Well, he wants to make sure we're fit to be ninja, right? We should train together so we can get used to how the others work. Sasuke, H-end. He has a point, Hinata. Where do you keep getting these good ideas from? They don't really seem to fit you. Naruto pouted. Hey, I've been studying under the Hokage himself. I've been training my brain a lot. Sasuke smirked. Well, I think it's about time we found out how much you've trained your body. Sasuke smirked as Naruto lay sprawled put on the ground before him. Geez, Naruto, you're not too good at fighting, are ya? Naruto growled. Shut up. Taijutsu alone doesn't make you a ninja, you know. Besides, if I pulled out my trump cards, I could waste ya. This was just a sparring match. Sasuke smirked some more. Excuses. Don't blame me if you failed Kakashi's test. I'm going home. Sasuke turned to leave. Naruto got up. Hey, where are you going? I haven't shown you what I can really do yet. Sasuke turned around. Give me one good reason why I should stay. It was Naruto's turn to smirk. When was the last time you sparred with Hinata? Sasuke's eyes narrowed. What are you getting at? Naruto's smirk grew. You're willing to beat me into the ground, but you don't fight her? Are you scared she'll beat you or something? Hinata's eyes widened. And Naruto, I don't know if this is such a good idea. Sasuke growled. Fine, Hinata, you better be ready for this. Sasuke charged at her. She gasped, and by pure reflex, she activated her Byakugan and blocked every punch and kick he sent at her. As Naruto cheered her on, she eventually started fighting back. Eventually, she pressed her palm against his chest, blasting him away from her. She gasped and ran over to him. I am so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. It just kind of happened. Sasuke growled as he got up, and glared at Naruto, who was now rolling on his back in laughter. Man, Sasuke, you got the beatdown that time. He glared at him. Well, if you're so special, why don't you try it? Naruto stopped laughing. Well, I mean, it just wouldn't be fair if I went all out on either of you. Sasuke smirked. Should I take that as a no? Naruto growled. Hinata started pushing her fingers together. What about that team training that we were going to go do? Naruto lit up, completely forgetting the sparring matches they were just having. Yeah, first, we should show off all of our abilities to each other, and then we'll set up a mock mission to test our abilities. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. And just what kind of mock mission are you planning on? Naruto put his hand on his chin. Well, we'll get to that later. So, what else can you guys do besides punch and kick? Hinata looked down, obviously ashamed. Nothing, really? Sasuke smirked. If you must know, I know a few Kaiden jutsus, and I'm very proficient with kunai and shuriken. Naruto smirked. Is that all? Fine then, I'll show you something that I haven't shown anyone before. Well, except maybe Hinata and Sarutobi-sensei. Hinata's eyes widened. Why you mean? Sasuke was slightly confused and shock was apparent on his features as Naruto physically transformed into a tiny fox, no smoke involved. How did you do that? Naruto snickered. Cool, huh? As far as I know, this is something only I can do. Watch this. Sasuke almost fell over when Naruto turned into a giant fox-headed man-beast thingy. I'm starting to regret giving him that form XD. Cool, huh? Think you could beat this? Sasuke glared at him. How long have you been able to do that? Naruto reverted back to his human form and put a hand on his chin. I think I first did it a few days before I met you guys. Sasuke glared at him some more. And you never bothered to show us? Why? Seems to me that you'd be bragging about that kind of power. Naruto sighed. Well, Sarutobi-sensei told me that it'd be best if the villagers didn't know. Foxes aren't too popular here in Konoha. Hinata nodded. It's been that way ever since the Kyuubi attack. Weren't you born on that day, Naruto? Naruto stiffened. I've never given any thought to it. It's just a coincidence. Sasuke looked at him. You were born the day a giant fox attacked the village. You look like a fox, and you have fox powers. Seems like it's more than just a coincidence. Naruto glared at him. Hey, I wasn't born with these powers, you know. Hinata looked surprised. What do you mean? It doesn't look like a jutsu. Naruto sighed. I ate something called the devil's fruit. In exchange for giving me power, it took away my ability to swim. Sasuke smirked. Hey, at least it wasn't your soul, right? Naruto smiled. Yeah, good thing, 'cause I didn't really know what I was doing back then. You know, being a kid and all. Sasuke chuckled. You're still a kid now. Where was the fruit from? Naruto opened up his mouth to say something, but then closed it. He closed his eyes in though, and then opened up both his eyes and his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. Sasuke sighed. You don't know, do you? Naruto shook his head. Hinata spoke up again. How did you get one? Naruto lit up at the chance to talk again. Well, some guy brought it in for Sarutobi-sensei to look at. I think his name was Jiraiya? I think that was it. Hinata's eyes widened a little in realization. You don't mean Jiraiya of the Sannin, do you? Naruto nodded. Yep, that's the guy. Seriously, as far as I remember, he was a weirdo. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. Do you know where he is now? Naruto smirked. Trying to get this power yourself? Sorry, but Jiraiya hasn't been in this village for years. Hinata looked up at the sky as it began to turn red. I really should be getting home. My father won't like me being out too late. Naruto pouted. Can't you ask him to stay out later for training? I'm sure he wouldn't mind. I think he'd let you. Hinata blushed. Well, I'd like to stay, but I can't. I'm sorry. Naruto sighed. Well, if you've gotta go, get plenty of sleep. Don't want you to be tired tomorrow, right? Hinata nodded. See you guys tomorrow. She bowed and left for home. Naruto sighed again. Man, there goes that mission I had planned. Sasuke smirked. What were you planning? A game of tag? Naruto looked disgusted. No, I would never dream up something so childish. I was going to henge into an enemy ninja, and you two would have to track me down and retrieve the secret scroll I had stolen. Then, we would take turns being the enemy ninja. Sasuke sighed. So, it's like a reverse game of tag, where there's multiple taggers and one target. Naruto's sweat dropped. Didn't I just say it wasn't tag? Sasuke sighed. Look, I'll see you tomorrow. If you can find any enemy ninja stealing secret scrolls, let me know. Naruto, HM'd as Sasuke walked away. Naruto sighed, and decided that he'd have to train by himself. A few hours later, Naruto was getting bored. Training by himself was part of his routine, and therefore he didn't have much interest in it. However, as he stood there, he realized that there was something amiss. He heard a familiar sound coming from behind him. Turning around, he saw it was a giant shuriken. He managed to duck, and it embedded itself in one of the 3 posts behind him. Naruto growled, "Who's there?" A figure jumped down from the trees. Well, Uzumaki. I must admit, I wasn't actually expecting you to dodge that." Naruto growled some more. You're that sensei from the academy? Mizuki, right? Mizuki chuckled. "I'm honored that a kitsune would bother to remember my name." Naruto stiffened. "Why does everybody keep calling me that?" Mizuki chuckled. "You mean you really don't know? You don't know the reason why everybody hates you?" Naruto stood up straight. "Not everybody. Sarutobi-sensei. That old fool only takes care of you because it is his sworn duty as Hokage to protect all of the citizens of Konoha. Even if it means raising a demon." Naruto's eyes widened. "A demon? What are you talking about? Does he know about the devil's fruit? Does everybody know?" Mizuki chuckled some more. "You really are stupid, aren't you? Haven't you ever noticed when your birthday was?" Naruto glared at him. "Are you trying to tell me that the whole village hates me just because I was born the day the Kyuubi attacked?" Mizuki's smirk wouldn't go away. "Oh, I assure you, it's a lot more than that. There's a reason why the Sandaime went so far as to make a law forbidding people from telling you." Naruto froze. A law? When? He made that law soon after you were born." Naruto gritted his teeth. "That removes the whole devil's fruit theory. Then again, I remember people hating me even before I ate that thing." "Alright then, spill. I can take anything you throw at me. I'm the Hokage's apprentice, after all. I'm going to be Hokage someday, so I can't let something about my past stop me." Mizuki chuckled. Again, Naruto wished he would stop. You see, the Yondaime did not kill Kyuubi that day. Such a being cannot be killed. So, he did something else, he sealed it. Now, if you're so smart, try to think where he would seal such a creature, Naruto took a second to put 2 and 2 together. If the Kyuubi wasn't dead, and everyone hated him, then he sealed it into a newborn baby, didn't he? It wasn't a question, a statement. Naruto knew what was coming next. Mizuki looked like he was about to burst into evil laughter. "That's right, and I guess you've figured out which baby he sealed it into." Naruto didn't react with words, but instead, his head leaned forward, leaving his eyes invisible to Mizuki. "That's right, the Kyuubi was sealed into Uzumaki Naruto. As a last-ditch effort, it tried to take over the boy's mind, but in the end, it lost its memories in order to control him." Naruto looked up at him, confusion on his face. "Wait, you're telling me that I'm the Kyuubi?" Mizuki nodded, his smirk never leaving his face. "That's right, you're the one who killed all of the villagers and shinobi that your precious, Sarutobi-sensei, was sworn to protect." Naruto sunk to his knees, staring at the ground, tears now coming from his eyes. I killed them? Me?" Mizuki's smirk grew as wide as it possibly while still being able to be called a smirk. "That's right, you killed them. That's why everybody hates you. Even the Sandaime hates you. And even though they don't show it, even your teammates despise you. I think it's time I did this whole village a favor by killing you. Maybe they'll even forget about that scroll I stole." Naruto's eyes widened, and as Mizuki charged at him, his giant shuriken spinning rapidly, Naruto felt something rise up within him. It was rage? Yes. Rage at how Mizuki had just openly admitted to betraying his village as if it were nothing. Naruto took hold of that rage, and then Mizuki was surprised when the boy managed to grab his shuriken with his bare hands. He started to panic when the boy wouldn't let go. He could feel Kyuubi's power rising up within the boy. "If I killed all of those people." Mizuki froze in horror as the boy became enveloped in red chakra. "Then I guess." Naruto threw Mizuki into a tree, and Mizuki could have sworn that a bone had been broken. He looked up, and he saw the Kyuubi's eyes looking at him. "That one more person won't hurt." Mizuki could only watch as the Kyuubi's power extended around the boy, etching a spiral in the ground, and creating a veritable tornado of chakra. Mizuki was horrified when the top of the tornado formed into the image of the Kyuubi's head and roared at him. Mizuki, of all people, had a flashback. The time? A few minutes beforehand, actually. Flashback no jutsu. Mizuki arrived at his destination, a cloaked figure waiting for him. If it weren't for the fact that there was no mask, Mizuki would have mistaken him for the head of the Anbu, due to their similar white cloaks. Mizuki took the scroll off of his back. I assume that this is the scroll you wanted? The figure nodded, and took a potion from his cloak. This is the potion that you wanted. It will give you powers that Orochimaru-sama has been researching for some time now. Don't worry, there shouldn't be any ill side effects. Actually, if you had used the recipe you had been given, it'd be the same as committing suicide. Orochimaru merely wanted to test you to see if power was the only thing you were after. Mizuki nodded, and he brought the scroll over to the person. He could assume the person was male, but he couldn't quite tell if he was a man or a teenager. When he received the potion, he immediately drank it and was surprised not to feel anything. Hey, where's the power? The figure chuckled. It'll activate shortly, since this power is artificial. It takes a few minutes to start working. You'll know how to use your powers instinctually. Mizuki nodded. I'll catch up to you in a few minutes. There's something I want to do first. The figure looked up. Really, now? Mizuki smirked. I feel like killing the Kyuubi brat. I saw him training on my way here. The person nodded. I have no problem with that. That would actually help Orochimaru-sama. Meet me at the other designated place within half an hour, though. Flashback Kai. Mizuki stood up, apprehensive of trying to fight the Kyuubi itself. He had wanted to mess with Naruto's head a little, but now he started thinking he had gone too far. Well, I guess now's as good a time as ever for me to try out that new power. When he tried it, however, he realized that he was now a lot taller than he remembered himself. Looking down, he realized his body was far more muscular than he remembered, and he had claws. He looked towards Naruto, who didn't seem fazed at it. Mizuki smirked, his fangs showing. Let's dance. Naruto dashed towards the large man-tiger hybrid, and attempted to punch him in the chest. Mizuki raised his arms in defense, and when the punch landed, he was pushed into the tree, which snapped in half. Mizuki smirked that had barely hurt. Faye, is this all that there is to the great Kyuubi's power? I guess my new powers are far greater than yours. Naruto growled. You take one punch, and you think I'm done for? I guess these new powers of yours have gone to your brain. Naruto disappeared, and Mizuki barely had time to duck the kick that Naruto had made for his head. Mizuki clawed at Naruto, and smirked when he saw the blood spill from his chest. His slitted eyes widened slightly when Naruto disappeared again in midair. He turned around, and blocked the next kick, which again pushed him several feet, leaving 2 small trenches in the ground. Naruto's fanged smirk looked extremely evil. Hey, it looks like I'm the faster. I wonder what would happen if I went all out with this new power of mine. Mizuki's face scrunched up in anger. You're nothing but a genin, you haven't even been in a real battle before. I've had to go through so much to achieve my rank. My experience makes me the better. Naruto smirked. Well, I guess I'll get experience by defeating you. Naruto disappeared and reappeared behind Mizuki. His smile completely disappeared when he felt something wrap around his neck and squeeze tightly. Clawing at his throat, he realized that the object around his throat was Mizuki's tail. Mizuki's head turned to look, and a feral smirk grew on his face. Oh, what do we have here? A little fox cub, trying to hunt for its first meal? A shame that you're not really the hunter here. I am. Mizuki twisted his body, and rammed Naruto's head into a nearby tree, knocking over that one as well. Mizuki frowned when he noticed that the claw marks from earlier had disappeared. This boy could heal pretty quickly, huh? Naruto smirked when he noticed the frown on Mizuki's feline features. Why you think that something like that could hurt me? Mizuki's tail tightened, and in this time Naruto was smashed into a nearby boulder, making a boy-shaped crater in it. No, but I think that did. Naruto attempted to chuckle, even though he was bloodied and bruised. Mizuki's tail tightened around the boy's throat even further. Face it, brat, you're as good as dead. Naruto closed his eyes, and Mizuki was shocked when Naruto's entire body expanded to a similar size as his own, but with foxish features instead of Mizuki's tiger features. Naruto grabbed the tail, pried it off of his throat, and threw Mizuki clear into yet another tree. Mizuki growled. Is that one of your Kyuubi powers, too? Naruto smirked. Kinda. I don't remember this form being so muscular before. But, I'll take what I can get, if it means bringing you down. Mizuki didn't even have the time to blink when Naruto's fist landed on his face. Before he could truly be sent flying through the air, Naruto grabbed him by his tail and began running, pulling Mizuki with him. Mizuki was horrified when he saw that Naruto intended to smash him into the same boulder Mizuki had smashed him into. Naruto didn't notice when there was a shift in Mizuki's weight as he brought down Mizuki like a club onto the boulder with all his might, and was shocked to see not the Mizuki he had grabbed, but a large tiger which had landed on the rock on all fours, ready to pounce. Naruto was forced to let go and get out of the way before the tiger leapt off of the rock. Mizuki's smirk was even more feral than before. Who wouldn't agree, seeing as he had completely changed from a man to a tiger. Faye, was that supposed to hurt? Naruto growled. I brought you down full force onto that rock, so how did you not take any damage from that? Mizuki slowly advanced towards Naruto as he spoke. Tigers are cats, you brat. We have padded feet that absorb the impact of any fall. Something like that only tickled. Mizuki crouched, and once again pounced towards Naruto. Naruto's form shrunk, and Mizuki landed on nothing. Mizuki turned, and was faced with a rather regular-looking fox. Naruto looked down at himself. Hey, looks like I finally have a normal fox form now, too. Mizuki growled. Look at yourself. No way a mere fox could compete with a tiger. Naruto flashed a true foxy grin. Oh really? Don't you hate me because I leveled so much of this village, killed so many people? If I could do all that, then I'm no mere fox. Before their fight could continue any further, the mysterious white figure Mizuki had been speaking with earlier appeared. Mizuki, enough of this. This fight has more than likely attracted attention. Mizuki growled. Shoot. And I was just getting into this battle, too. The cloaked figure glared at the fox opposite Mizuki. I remember you. You're that blasted fox that disgraced me a few years back. Naruto's mind drew a blank. What in the world was this guy talking about? Remember this, Uzumaki Naruto, the next time we meet, we will battle, and I will win. The man tossed a large scroll towards Naruto. Mizuki's eyes widened, and attempted to jump towards the scroll, but the man appeared in front of him and kicked him away. Naruto reverted to his regular human form and caught the scroll. Mizuki also reverted to his human form. Why did you go and do that? Now you and I are both as good as dead. The man snorted. All he wants is the information on that scroll, and I copied it all. Our mission is a success. We're leaving. Mizuki turned towards Naruto. At least let me kill. No, we'd probably get in trouble for killing a devil fruit user. Mizuki locked eyes with Naruto. Fine, you're getting off easy this time, Uzumaki. But I'll have a better grasp of my powers next time, so just you wait. With that, they disappeared. Naruto opened the scroll he was given just a little. He saw a one-hand seal technique that looked fairly interesting. Memorizing the hand seal, he closed the scroll when his enhanced senses detected people coming. Instantly, he was surrounded by many shinobi of various ranks, Hiruzen and Kakashi among them. Hiruzen glared at him. Naruto, hand over that scroll. Now. Naruto gave a faint smile, obviously forced. Huh? Why yeah, here you go. He walked over to his old sensei and handed him the scroll. Hiruzen's gaze did not soften. Naruto. Were you the one who stole this scroll? Naruto looked scared for once. What? And no, it was this guy named Mizuki. He stole it. Iruka stepped forward. Mizuki? That can't be right. Sir, Mizuki is my friend, he wouldn't just go in. The old Hokage held up his hand, silencing him. He took a puff from his pipe and observed his surroundings. Looks like there was quite a battle. He noticed the Naruto-shaped crater in a nearby boulder. He turned back to Naruto. Naruto explained. Well, he showed up, tried to kill me, and then this other guy came, and he handed me this scroll, and then they left. The Sandaime raised an eyebrow. And that's all? Naruto lowered his eyes to the ground. Well. That's the gist of it, yeah. Hiruzen took another puff of his pipe. Why don't you come with me to my office, and we'll talk about it some more. Kakashi, Iruka, I want you two to come as well. Hi. Once in the Hokage's office, Naruto was seated in a chair. Hiruzen sat down in his chair, and Iruka and Kakashi stood. Tell me, Naruto. What's wrong? You haven't been acting your usual self tonight. Naruto took a deep breath. I tried to kill him. I mean, I know I'm supposed to, but the pure rage, the pure hatred I felt towards him for betraying our village. I was able to keep it from outright controlling me, but the power that I felt coursed through me. If shinobi aren't supposed to feel emotions, then why is it that those same emotions gave me strength? Hiruzen sighed. It's not truly possible for us to not feel emotions. It's a shinobi's job to not let those emotions guide his actions. A man blinded by rage will not see all that is around him, but a man guided by his heart will know the path through any trouble. Naruto's face brightened a little, but all could tell that it was forced. Kakashi leaned towards the wizened leader. Hokage-sama, shouldn't we ask him about that? The elderly ninja closed his eyes in thought. Naruto, what happened in your battle? Several trees were leveled, and you left quite the impression on that boulder. Naruto looked down. He and I have similar fighting styles. Hiruzen and Kakashi looked at each other and nodded. Iruka looked confused. Wait, what? It isn't exactly Mizuki's style to cause that kind of destruction. Kakashi put his hand to his chin. You mean, he ate of the devil fruit too, huh? Naruto nodded. Iruka was more than confused. The devil fruit? What are you talking about? Hiruzen took a puff of his pipe. The devil fruit gives special abilities to those who eat them, in exchange for the user's ability to swim. Before you say anything, they are most often found on islands, not on the mainland. I wonder where he got it. Naruto spoke up. Well, his partner mentioned some higher up. Maybe that guy gave it to him. Iruka put his hand to his forehead. But, are you sure it was Mizuki? What did this guy look like? Naruto put his hand to his chin. Well, he had silver-ish hair, and he was wearing a bandana. Iruka sighed. Yeah, that's him. Hiruzen's eyes narrowed. So, his abilities are similar to yours, Naruto? Why yeah. Iruka looked at Naruto. What are you guys talking about? What abilities? Naruto looked at his sensei, who nodded. Naruto took a deep breath, and attempted to transform back into his hybrid form. When he looked down at himself, he was disappointed to discover that all of his newfound musculature was gone. Iruka looked horrified. Why, you said that this is the power of some devil's fruit? Are you sure it doesn't come from? Hiruzen silenced him. Yes, we're very sure. Naruto, what forms does he take? A tiger and a man-tiger hybrid far more muscular than this form. Naruto reverted to his normal self. Sarutobi nodded to him. Thank you, Naruto. I know you don't like to show people you don't know your powers. He turned to Iruka. You tell no one about Naruto's abilities. Understood? Iruka gulped. High. He then turned to Kakashi. Any tips you want to give Naruto for his exam tomorrow? He seems to be quite the promising candidate. Kakashi cast his lazy gaze in Naruto's direction. Well, if he's come this far. What did you say you got so mad at again? Huh? I was mad because he betrayed the village. Kakashi nodded. Don't ever forget what that felt like. Naruto. And with that, Kakashi disappeared in a plume of smoke. Hiruzen sighed. Well, I guess this meeting is over. Naruto, I advise you get some sleep. Iruka, I'm sorry about your loss, but until his innocence is proven, Mizuki is now a nuke nin. Iruka looked saddened. High. When Naruto got home, his curiosity got the better of him and, instead of going to bed right off, he wanted to test that new jutsu. He was always obsessed with cool techniques for him. Learning this jutsu would be a very good way for him to take his mind off of the day's events. After a short while of practice, he finally got the jutsu right. It was called the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, and it created a solid clone of himself, as opposed to an illusion. Not only that, but the clone had a copy of his brain, too. It was certainly no mindless drone. He even discovered that, when dismissed, he gained the clone's memories, too. Certainly a very useful technique. And since it did not require the chakra control that the regular Bunshin required, it was far easier for him to perform. The more chakra he pumped into it, the more clones he created, instead of him having to mold each individual clone as he used to have to do. He grinned. This jutsu would be far better for distraction purposes than a regular Bunshin. He wondered why his sensei had neglected to teach him such a jutsu, but decided that some sleep was prudent after all. It was only a few hours until the meeting time. Setting his clock, he went to bed and fell into a fitful sleep, filled with nightmares. When he woke up, Naruto immediately knew that his short sleep was not nearly enough that most people would have required to recover. Naruto, on the other hand, was not most people even though he had horrible nightmares, elements of said nightmares including Mizuki and the Kyuubi, as well as a burning Konoha. He felt completely refreshed physically speaking. After he cleaned up, he ate some breakfast. When he was done with that, he leapt out of his window, heading towards the specified testing ground. When he got there, he was not too surprised to see Hinata and Sasuke already there. He frowned when he realized how they might react to finding out he was a demon. He was sure all of the adults knew, which made him wonder why Sarutobi had taken him in. It was probably because that whatever the Yondaime Hokage had done, it had erased his memories, and therefore even if he had once been a demon, he wasn't anymore. Satisfied with this conclusion that he was not the Kyuubi, but himself, he smiled. Hinata saw him first, and smiled as well. Naruto. Sasuke smirked. What took you so long? We've been here a couple of hours already. Naruto gave them a look that said, what are you talking about? A couple of hours. Panic spread across his face. Shoot, I thought he said 9 o'clock. Hinata smiled. Well, sensei hasn't shown up yet, either. I wonder why he's so late. Sasuke brushed a hand through his hair. He had better have a very good reason to make us skip breakfast. Naruto panic deepened. Omen. I completely forgot about that, too. Sasuke sighed. Can't you remember anything, Naruto? Naruto looked affronted. If I couldn't remember anything, then explain to me why I can remember the details of the time we met. You guys can barely remember it yourselves. Sasuke sighed. If we don't remember it, how are we to know you're not lying about what you remember? Before their argument could proceed any further, Kakashi appeared in his signature plume of smoke. Hello, team. I trust your morning has gone well. Naruto and Sasuke shrugged their shoulders. Anyways, he took out a timer and 2 bells from his pocket. I guess you guys will want to know about this test, right? The objective is to take these 2 bells from me within the time limit. Whoever gets a bell passes. Whoever does not fails. Hinata spoke up. But sensei, I thought that genin teams had 3 genin on them. So why are you passing only 2 of us? Kakashi gave the impression that he was smiling. Well, looks like somebody did their research. Teams are assembled after you take this test. And nobody said anything about only passing 2 of you. You could all fail. The young shinobi to be gulped. Any more questions? No? Good. You are to come at me with all that you've got, and make sure you're really trying to kill me. Anything less won't be able to get these bells from me. The young warriors each steeled their gaze as Kakashi set the timer. Oh, and one last thing. Whoever doesn't get a bell doesn't eat lunch. Before there were any objections, he put down the timer. Begin. 2 of the 3 had disappeared immediately, leaving only Naruto behind, staring down his sensei. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Oh? And why aren't you hiding, Naruto? Naruto grimaced. You're a Jonin, right? If you're anywhere near as good as Sarutobi sensei says you are, there's not really much point in hiding at the moment. Besides, I think it's time we tried our fighting style on someone who's not going to go easy on me. Naruto charged straight at Kakashi, who dodged his seemingly wild punches. As Kakashi dodged each one, he noticed that something didn't quite seem right. He decided to follow a left hook with his eye, and noticed that whenever the fist went past his head, Naruto was making hand signals. A moment later, Kakashi heard a kunai coming from his left, and ducked under it. It was aimed right at his head and turned momentarily to where it had come from. Big mistake. He heard another shift in Naruto's weight, and Kakashi shifted to dodge a punch only to discover that there was a kunai in Naruto's hand. He grabbed Naruto's wrist and flipped the young genin over his head, making sure that the kunai didn't touch him. So, that's what he meant by our fighting style. As Naruto arched his body to position his feet for an interception with the ground, Kakashi heard another kunai coming right at him. He wisely let go of Naruto and pulled his arm back only for this kunai to make it into Naruto's grasp as well. Naruto smirked as he charged at his sensei, keeping the man on defense. Kakashi smiled under his mask. The second kunai had come from a different direction than the first, meaning that both of Naruto's teammates were helping him out. These 3 had definitely worked together before. They had almost gotten a pass in his book, but it was going to take more than some fancy tricks to impress him. Naruto made a slice with his left hand, causing Kakashi to duck to his own left, and duly noticed that Naruto's right hand was already moving, apparently trying to take advantage of the blind spot on his left. Kakashi moved slightly to his right to dodge and noticed out of the corner of his eye the smirk on Naruto's face. Kakashi realized that both of Naruto's arms were still outstretched. Kakashi forced himself backwards just in time, as the two kunai were pulled back towards him. He heard cloth tearing and saw Naruto's scowl. Kakashi checked himself for blood, but there was none. The kunai had barely touched his mask, causing 2 tears down his cheeks. Kakashi sighed. That was close, maybe I should get serious. Naruto again tried to slice Kakashi across the face, but this time Kakashi got behind Naruto before he could even blink. Konoha Ultimate Ancient Secret Taijutsu, 1000 Years of Pain. Sasuke's eyes widened when he saw their teacher form the Taurus seal. Was his teacher really going to use a Kaden Jutsu? He flinched when he saw what his teacher did do, ram his fingers up Naruto's behind. Hinata blushed at the action and her eyes widened when Naruto was sent flying through the air. She quickly calculated where he was going to land, and gasped the river. She recalled what Naruto had said the night before, I ate something called the devil's fruit. In exchange for giving me power, it took away my ability to swim. She quickly dashed from her hiding place, determined to get him out before he drowned. Kakashi raised an eyebrow as Hinata dashed out towards Naruto as he splashed into the river. So, she knows about Naruto's powers, too. Before he could go after her, several shuriken came straight for him from the opposite direction of Naruto and Hinata. So, Sasuke wants to play now, does he? Let's see what the last Uchiha is made of. Hinata ran into the river, and noticed Naruto laying on his back in shallow water. She pulled him out. She doubted that drowning in shallow water on a training mission was his ideal way to go. After a moment, she realized that he wasn't breathing. She was immediately horrified with the logical conclusion he needed CPR. She became so paralyzed by the thought of kissing Naruto that she promptly fainted. Naruto woke up a moment later, and found himself wondering why Hinata was unconscious with such a red face. Maybe she was sick? Kakashi stared Sasuke in the eyes. So, time to see what you're capable of, Sasuke. I want to see the so-called power of the Uchiha clan. Sasuke smirked. Well, I don't know, a guy like you probably isn't even worthy of seeing such power. Kakashi grunted. Why don't you try me and find out? Sasuke's smirk grew a little wider. I'd rather not, thanks. Kakashi stiffened. You mean you're just going to give up? Sasuke sighed. I never said that, but there's no point in going on. Kakashi heard a noise from behind him, and turned to see an army of Narutos jump from the bushes. When it's already over. However, it most certainly wasn't over. Kakashi instantly disappeared, replaced by a log. All of the Narutos, surprised, tumbled in midair and fell into a disorganized heap. The Narutos disappeared, leaving the real one to fall off the top of the pile face first onto the ground. He spat some grass from his mouth. Darn it, that would have been so cool if it had worked. Sasuke grunted. You owe me. I sounded like an arrogant prick. Hinata emerged from the bushes, still red from her near experience a few moments before. So, what do we do now? Sasuke sighed. Keep trying, I guess. But that guy's good. It's going to take a lot more than some parlor tricks to get him. Speaking of, where'd you learn that jutsu, Naruto? Naruto froze. Can we talk about that after this exam? Sasuke snorted. Well, considering that we don't really have time for that, fine. But what do you suggest we do, then? Hinata looked at her teammates. Jutsu? You mean that clone jutsu Naruto used? Sasuke nodded. Yeah, those were physical clones? Hinata looked at Naruto. That jutsu? Each of those clones had their own chakra system. I couldn't tell which of them was the real you, even with my Byakugan. A look of enlightenment dawned on Naruto's face. A moment later, he created 2 clones, each of which turned into one of the other 2 genin. So, do we look like the real deal? Sasuke smirked. I think I see where you're going with this. Naruto's foxy grin stretched from ear to ear. Do you, Sasuke? Do you? Kakashi stood with his back against the tree, reading his favorite Icha Icha novel by Jiraiya. The man was not only a genius ninja, but a genius writer, too. However, he was forced to close his book and duck when 6 kunai came from his left, right, and front, 2 from each. He quickly looked in all 3 directions, and saw Hinata and Sasuke to his sides who, he noted, had caught the kunai sent towards them, and Naruto coming from his front, unarmed. Deciding to take his chances, he pulled a kunai from the tree and dashed towards Naruto and realized he had fallen into a trap when raised his hand into the air, making a karate chop motion towards Kakashi. Alright, everyone, let's do this. A moment later, and an army of Narutos, Hinatas, and Sasukes began leaping from the brush. Kakashi groaned at this rate. He'd never find out if the Naruto in his book would ever find that one special girl who he would like for something other than their looks. He immediately went to work, punching and kicking through the several genin hopeful clones. He noted that the Hinatas had a vague semblance of a Jukin stance, while the Sasukes had a more refined stance than the Narutos. He sincerely doubted that they all knew how to create Kage Bunshin or even this many. Naruto was the only one with the chakra reserves to do it, and even then, he would have thought the boy to fall into a coma from chakra exhaustion by now. Kakashi's thoughts would have continued, but he spotted something. One of the Sasukes was moving more like a Hyuga than an Uchiha. Smirking under his mask, he dashed towards Sasuke, and attacked. The smirk disappeared when this one, too, turned out to be a clone. He swore when near instantly all of the clones began mix-matching their fighting styles. Now he had no clue whatsoever as to who was who, or if they were even people. He carelessly threw a punch to a nearby Naruto, who blocked it Hyuga style. While Naruto held his arm, Hinata jumped on his back, completely limiting his ability to move. The clones all disappeared, except for the two holding him and a Sasuke who was walking up to him. Ready to concede defeat, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi smirked under his mask. 3, I would, but 2, it seems. 1, that you're out of time. Immediately, a loud ring tore through the air, signifying the end of the exercise. Hinata jumped off of his back, and with a small poof of smoke, was revealed to be Sasuke. Naruto became Hinata, and Sasuke became Naruto. Naruto groaned. "Oh, man, we had you, too." Kakashi smiled under his mask. "One last test wouldn't hurt, would it? Well, assume that you did get me. Who would have gotten the bells? This whole time, you've been fighting as a team. Did you ever once think of the consequences?" Naruto's eyes widened. Well, not really, no." Hinata's eyes focused on the ground. She had been so caught up in it that she, too, had forgotten about it. Sasuke growled. "So, what? You just want to divide us here and now?" Kakashi took the 2 bells off of his pouch. "Sure, why not? You guys came a lot closer than any other team I've tested. Go ahead, choose who to leave behind." He tossed the 2 bells towards his students, but no one grabbed them. After a moment, Naruto stepped away from the bells. "Well, I never went to the academy, so." Sasuke stepped back, as well. "Naruto is already so powerful, and Hinata has her Byakugan. I don't really have anything special. I should train a while longer before becoming a ninja." Hinata looked at her friends on either side of her, and when she realized she was in the spotlight, she turned red and hid behind the 2 boys. I didn't really do much to help, so." Naruto smiled. "What you talking about? You fished me out of the water. If it weren't for you, I'd be dead right now." Kakashi put his hand on his forehead. "Oh, right. The whole, cursed to not be able to swim, thing. Forgot about that." Naruto snorted, and rolled his eyes. "So or you did." Kakashi scanned the 3 of them slowly. "So, that's it? None of you are willing to let the others sacrifice themselves?" They looked amongst themselves, and nodded. Naruto sighed. "Yeah, I guess so." Kakashi sighed. "Well, that's going to make Anko happy, at least. She and the Hokage were the only ones willing to bet on you guys passing." Sasuke raised an eyebrow. "They have betting pools for these things?" Kakashi gave an eye smile. "No, just for me. You're the first group I've ever passed. Look, since you all seem to be so overcome with joy, why don't you go celebrate or something?" His team was stunned with disbelief, merely staring at their very sarcastic teacher. "Well, we'll meet again tomorrow, same place, same time. Ciao." Naruto coughed when he breathed in some of the smoke. "So, anyone for Ichiraku's?" Sasuke snorted. "That ramen place? Again?" Naruto crossed his arms, trying to look authoritative. "You have any better ideas?" Sasuke shrugged his shoulders in defeat. "Not really. Just thought that I'd point out just how addicted to ramen you are." Naruto smirked, and turned to Hinata. "Any other objections?" Hinata shook her head slowly. She was still in shock about the test. "Alright then, to Ichiraku's it is." Sasuke grabbed him by the shoulder before he could charge off. By the way, Naruto. How come you didn't use your powers on Kakashi-sensei today? Naruto broke into a sweat. You see, Sasuke sighed and let him go. You forgot, didn't you? Naruto nodded. Despite the fact that these powers have been a part of you for nearly a decade now. Naruto nodded once again. I believe the term here is, loser. But, if it wasn't for those Kage Bunshin, we wouldn't be here, so, thanks. Naruto grinned. You're welcome. Anytime you need me to save you, I'll come swooping in to show off my ninja skills to the world. Sasuke smirked. Wouldn't you rather go about saving Hinata? Naruto faltered, and Hinata blushed. Well, she won't need saving. But you, on the other hand. Sasuke smirked. Well, how about we just all agree to save each other when necessary, alright? He put his hand forward. Naruto took Hinata's HND, and placed both of them on Sasuke's. You have a deal, Sasuke. At first, everything seemed to be quiet in this one particular section of the Land of Fire's great forests, but if one were to listen intently, they could hear the rustling of leaves as Team 7 stealthily searched for their target. Naruto spotted something and hid behind a tree. He pushed his finger against the communicator in his ear. Kakashi-sensei, we're 5 meters from the target. Permission to engage? Kakashi sighed. Depends. Is everyone ready? Sasuke radioed in. Naruto said, what do you think? Kakashi groaned. It's called standard procedure, Sasuke. And you, Hinata? You're absolutely sure that this is the target? Hinata's voice crackled over the radio. Hi, sensei. Kakashi nodded to himself. Alright. Then permission granted, Naruto. Remember, mission is to capture, not terminate. Naruto smirked. Don't tempt me like that. You heard him, guys get ready, go. Naruto transformed into his chibi fox form and dashed towards the target. A cat with a red ribbon on its right ear. The cat, being of the feline persuasion, instantly picked up the fact that there was a canine after it and dashed to the left. However, to the left was Hinata, bent over with her arms wide open. Come here, Tora-chan, you'll be safe with me. The cat, grateful for the refuge, instantly leapt into her arms, and turned around to hiss at Naruto, who was already back in his human form. Naruto frowned. Man, that was too easy. Why can't we ever do something more exciting? First weed pulling, then litter removal. Naruto leaned in towards the cat. And now pet retrieval. I'm tired of it. He recoiled in pain when the cat scratched him full across the face. Apparently, it still sensed the fox in him. Hinata nearly dropped Tora in surprise. Naruto-kun, are you alright? Naruto rubbed his face. I'll be fine. Can't guarantee the cat's safety, though. Sasuke sighed as he approached them. Just try it. It'll give me something to do on this mission, considering that the cat dashed towards Hinata right away. Kakashi dropped in. Look, I can't change what kind of missions you get. It's the Hokage's job to assign missions, don't you remember? Naruto gave another foxy grin, resulting in a hiss from Tora. Well, I guess that means we should go talk to Sarutobi-sensei about it then, huh? Naruto snickered as the cat was enveloped in a bear hug by his owner, Madame Shijimi, the Lord of Fire's wife. Hinata sighed. That poor kitty. Sasuke frowned. Something tells me that this won't be the last time this mission will be assigned. As Shijimi and Tora left, Hiruzen pulled out a sheet of paper. Alright then, Team 7. Your next assignments are to babysit an elder's grandson, go shopping in a neighboring village, and to help dig out someone's potato garden. Naruto took a step forward. Kakashi sighed quietly. Here it comes. After a moment, Naruto kneeled, placing one hand on his jutted-out left knee and the other hand was placed on the ground, and he stared intently into the Hokage's eyes. Hokage-sama, on behalf of both myself and my teammates, I humbly request that we receive a mission more befitting those known as shinobi. Everyone could not help but stare at the blonde genin. Hiruzen smirked. Well, looks like those lessons didn't go to waste, after all, Naruto. I think I have just the mission right here. Iruka, who was the Hokage's assistant for the day, sputtered incredulously. Hokage-sama, you can't just send them on a C rank. They're not ready for it yet. Kakashi sighed. Iruka, I don't know exactly what Hinata and Sasuke were like at the academy, but they were at the top of the class, and Naruto was the Hokage's apprentice. These three make an excellent team. I hate to admit it, but they even tricked me of all people during their genin exam. I think they've had more than enough training to handle some bandits. Iruka, unable to make a comeback, merely just sat down, mumbling to himself about other people being suck-ups. Here is inside. Anyways, this is a protection mission. You are to escort a certain someone to the land of waves. It did not go unnoticed that Naruto paled. A smirk crept onto the Hokage's lips. What's wrong, Naruto? You look kind of pale. Naruto shook his head. And nothing's wrong, Hokage-sama. Must be a draft or something. Hiruzen shook his head, a chuckle escaped in his mouth. Anyways, Tazuna, you may come in now. A nearby wall panel slid open, and in walked a man that appeared to be in his late 50s. He was about Kakashi's height, but this man was a tad overweight. He was actually quite muscular, but the sake bottle in his hand made it quite obvious that it was more a case of beer belly than anything. He was currently drinking from said bottle, and some of the sake trickled down his beard. After wiping it off and closing the door behind him, he took a good look at the ninja he had just hired. What's this? They're all a bunch of super brats. I mean, look at the girl, she looks like she couldn't harm a fly. He quickly sobered up when two kunai dug into the wall on either side of his head. Naruto was immediately in his face. I don't care what anyone says about me, but do not let people insult Hinata-chan. By the way, I missed. Hinata-chan? She never misses. She could hit a fly with one of these things as long as it's within throwing distance of the kunai. Sasuke, there knows more ways to slice a man up with shuriken than I care to count. And you don't even want to know what I can do to a man with my bare hands. Am I clear? Tazuna gulped. See crystal. Naruto removed the kunai from Tazuna's sides and walked back to his friends, giving one of the kunai to Sasuke. This is yours, I believe. Sasuke nodded, taking it back. Don't you think that was a bit overdoing it? He is the client. Here is inside. Naruto. I'll let it slide just this once, but I don't want to hear from any of your clients that you assaulted them. Am I clear on that? A shiver went down Naruto's spine. See clearer than the air we breathe. The old Hokage smiled. Good. Tazuna, suddenly emboldened, puffed up his chest. Anyways, my name's Tazuna. I'm a super master bridge builder. Your job is to escort my super self back to the land of waves and guard me until the bridge is done in a couple of weeks. The group of 5 travelers stood at the gates of Konoha, all of their gear ready for the journey. However, Naruto seemed somewhat nervous. Hey, Tazuna-san. By land of waves, you mean the island nation, right? Tazuna nodded. Right, we don't have any connection with the mainland, so that's what the bridge is for. Naruto gulped. Meaning we're gonna have to take a boat to get into the country, huh? Tazuna nodded again. We'll probably just use a rowboat. Naruto shivered. Kakashi leaned in. Are you really that scared of water, Naruto? Naruto shook his head. It's not just that. There's something in the air. Something's not right here. I can smell it. Kakashi nodded in agreement. Well, let's see if Hinata can see it. He gave the signal to Hinata to use her Byakugan, and after a moment, she signaled back. 2 people not allies were watching them. Kakashi sighed to himself. Great. I think I would have been better off not knowing. Hinata spoke up. Do they have ninja in the land of waves, too? Kakashi sighed. The land of waves? Nope. Like Tazuna said, they don't have a connection to the mainland, so they don't really have to worry about invasions or anything. But, most countries in our section of the world do have ninja. Actually, Konohagakure no Sato is the very first village of its kind in the world. All of the other hidden villages are based off of us. Isn't that nice to know? Naruto nodded. Yeah, I heard about all that stuff from Sarutobi-sensei, about how the Senju and Uchiha clans founded Konoha. Sasuke smirked. So, guess that makes me Konoha nobility, then. The comment obviously struck a nerve with Naruto, so Kakashi intervened. Well, in a way, all 3 of you are nobility in Konoha. The Hyuga and Uchiha have both been extremely instrumental in Konoha's past, and Naruto. Well, Naruto. Naruto gave a faint smile as he stepped in a puddle in the road. It's alright, Kakashi-sensei. I know I'm just some orphan taken off the street. Kakashi sighed. Look. When the time comes, you'll find out everything about your past. I think right now, though, you shouldn't worry about it. You are Uzumaki Naruto, Hokage's apprentice. Doesn't that just have a nice ring to it? Naruto smiled, and started walking a bit faster. Sasuke moved over to Kakashi. Guess that means you know who his parents are, don't you, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi paled. He was saved from having to explain himself when he suddenly found himself wrapped in spiked chains. Two ninja had somehow snuck up on them, holding the chains on either side of Kakashi. The one on the right had smooth black hair, a cape, and camouflage pants, as well as a giant clawed gauntlet on his right hand, which the chain seemed to be attached to. The one on the left had longer, spikier hair, had no cape, and had a similar gauntlet on his left hand. Their Hite 8 marked them as from Kirikagore no Sato Mist Ninja. Their Hite 8 were modified so that the one on the right had one horn in the center of his, while the other had one horn extending from either side. One down, they pulled, and in an instant, Kakashi's form was torn into several pieces. In another instant, they were behind Naruto. Two down, Naruto was consumed with rage. They had just killed his sensei. The two ninja ducked when Naruto jumped backwards with both of his arms extended, hoping to clothesline them. They turned around to try to kill him in the same way that they had done to Kakashi, but were stunned by the boy's appearance. He had grown orange and white fur all over his body, and his eyes had turned red. The whisker marks on his cheek had become real whiskers, and his ears had changed shape into furred triangles. He had grown not only fangs and claws, but a tail as well. What was most astonishing were his legs. The ankle was raised to the point that it looked like a second, backwards knee, like an animal's. An instant after they made these observations, the one with two horns was crippled over, Naruto's fist in his gut. Naruto growled. One down. The other one, in a panic, dashed towards the others. Sasuke and Hinata tried to block his way, but he dashed to the side, attacking them with the chain. Right before it reached them, it maxed out on its length, and the man was forced to detach the chain as he dashed towards Tazuna. It was enough the two genin were too enveloped in dodging the chain to be able to stop him. However, before his claw could sink into the man's chest, Naruto appeared in front of him and grabbed him by the wrist, the tip of the claws digging into Naruto's fur. Naruto growled again, and the man feared for his life, unable to pull his gauntlet from the boy's grip. Two down. Naruto made a short hop, raising his right leg high and bringing it down on the man's head, knocking him out. As he fell, the claws made a long scratch down Naruto's chest. Naruto, satisfied, resumed his human form. Sasuke stared at him. What was that? I thought you said you only had 3 forms? That one makes form number 4. Naruto was saved from that particular explanation when none other than Kakashi appeared from the bushes. Looking towards where Kakashi died, there were several pieces of wood Kawarimi no Jutsu. Good job, Naruto. Seems that your abilities are evolving. However, that's not how you should have handled it. Things like that need to be kept hidden. Kakashi pointed to Tazuna, who had a horrified look on his face. Why you? That power. Naruto immediately went on the defensive. I can explain, honest. You see, it's a power I got from eating the devil fruit. I know that. Naruto looked relieved. Oh, thank goodness. But how do you know about devil fruit, Tazuna? Kakashi held up his hand. You might want to save it for later, Naruto. Look at yourself. Naruto did so. He had scratch marks that went all the way down his chest. You do realize that these two have poison on their claws, right? Naruto froze. He knew what this probably meant. We need to go back to Konoha immediately and get you treated. It's not that far, but it will set us back quite a bit. Naruto shook his head. And no, I'm fine. Look, you can barely see the scratch anymore. I sincerely doubt the poison was able to get in. Kakashi rubbed his chin. I don't know. Hinata took something out of her pack. I have some medical supplies if you need them, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi shook his head. No need. Naruto has a regeneration ability. Look, he's already healed. Nothing we can do now, if he is poisoned. Naruto and Sasuke tied the two enemy ninja to a tree, and Tazuna wandered over. Naruto turned to him. Back to what you were saying earlier. How do you know about devil fruit? One of the enemy ninja spoke up. How? Did you know we were even there? Naruto frowned. At this rate, he'd never find out if Tazuna knew any other devil fruit users. Kakashi turned to the ninja. Mist Chunin, you don't know when a fight ends, and you certainly don't know when it begins, either. Well, we knew you were there the moment we stepped out of Konoha. However, I knew that you would attack the moment we passed that puddle. It hasn't rained in days, and if you haven't noticed, It's quite sunny out, not exactly weather one can play in the mud in. Tazuna put his hand on his chin. But if you knew, why wait? To find out the truth. Tazuna gulped nervously. The truth? Kakashi nodded. The truth about who they're really after. All of us are priority targets for different groups, and it seems like they were hired by a group out to get you, Tazuna. Having other shinobi on our tail means that this is now a B-ranked mission, not something you can afford, correct? Tazuna nodded. Kakashi continued. I'm sure you had a good reason, but lying causes problems for us. We need to return to the village, especially since Naruto might be poisoned. Naruto was devastated. Sure, he had gotten some action, but Sasuke and Hinata hadn't. So what if they were going to fight more ninja? It would certainly look good on their records if they won. Taking out a kunai, Naruto carved an X onto his chest mercilessly, causing everyone around him to become shocked. I swear, even if these guys try to drag me back to the village, I will protect you to the end, Tazuna. I swear it on this wound. Kakashi sighed. That's nice and all, Naruto, but it's already healing. Naruto blinked and looked down at his chest. Sure enough, it was halfway healed. Naruto swore loudly, and not the kind he had just made to protect Tazuna, either. Deep in a mist-enshrouded forest was a large building, for the most part suspended in the air by ropes tied to the surrounding gigantic trees, with one such tree growing right through the building. Inside the building were two groups of men. One was a group of gangsters, with their leader a short, balding man in a business suit. The other group was comprised of men identifiable as mist shinobi, all of whom were kneeling in the presence of their leader, a tall man holding an even larger sword while sitting on a couch. The businessman snarled, "You failed? I paid you all good money because I'd heard that you were very strong, and you failed?" The man on the couch lifted his sword and pointed it at the small mouse of a man. "Stop your whining. This time, I'll go with this sword, and chop off their heads." The businessman did not seem intimidated in the least. "You sure about that? Apparently these ninja are very skilled." The swordsman snorted. "Who do you think I am? There's a reason I, Momochi Zabuza, am called the demon of the hidden mist village." The businessman snorted. "Just make sure the bridge builder dies. I'd prefer not to do the job personally, but I will if you keep failing." As the man and his guards left, Zabuza sighed. "Do it personally? Please. That mouse couldn't hurt cheese if he wanted." Naruto peered over the side of the boat as it slowly moved across the water as the Armin rode along. He was starting to have second thoughts about protecting Tazuna, if it meant having to constantly be near deep water. He looked back at his teammates with the mist so thick, it was really either stare at them or the water. Sasuke was leaning on the side of the boat nonchalantly, as was Kakashi. Hinata was scanning the surroundings with her Byakugan, which made the veins around her near white eyes bulge, making sure nobody was after them. Tazuna was being himself, drinking from his sake bottle while being worried. Naruto turned to the Armin. "Why aren't we using that engine, again?" The man growled at him. "What, you want to get caught by Gato?" Tazuna sighed. "Look, I'll tell you who's after me, but you're not gonna like what you hear." Sasuke snorted. "We'll decide that later, alright? Just tell us already." Tazuna nodded. "He's a super dangerous man. A shipping magnate by the name of Gato." Naruto was nearly shocked. "Gato, from the Gato company? He's one of the richest men in the world. Why's he after your head?" Tazuna grimaced. "On the outside, he seems to be running a perfectly legit company. But deeper in, he's a criminal overlord, who uses whatever means necessary, be it gang members or shinobi, to take over other businesses, and even countries." Kakashi put his hand on his chin. "So, he's after the Land of Waves now, is he?" Tazuna nodded slowly. "More like is almost finished with it. He's nearly taken over the country. He's in charge of everything that leaves and enters the country. All that needs to be done is make sure the bridge doesn't get finished, and he'll be in complete control." Hinata spoke up. "If you knew such a dangerous man was after you, why did you only hire genin like us?" Tazuna tilted his head, shading his eyes with his hat. "You see, the Land of Waves is super poor. Even the feudal lord has no money. We emptied the treasury just to hire a bunch of super brats like you. But, if you really want to go ahead and quit the mission, I'll be fine. I'll only die, that's all." Kakashi attempted to interject, but Tazuna continued on. "And my cute grandson will cry for a few days. And my daughter will live the rest of her sad life cursing Leaf Shinobi. Aw, don't mind me. I kind of ramble in my old age. Kakashi turned to his team. Well, all things considered, I guess we should continue onwards. A mission's a mission. Even if we are being underpaid for it. The man rowing the boat looked up. We're getting close to the bridge. The land of waves is just beyond that. Naruto looked up at said bridge. The mist was lifting, so he could see it semi-clearly. To put it bluntly, it was huge. The Armin grunted. We'll take the route with more vegetation. We'll be less likely to be spotted that way. Tazuna grunted his thanks, and after a minute, they entered a tunnel. When they got to the other side, Naruto found himself gaping at his surroundings. There were a bunch of houses built on the water, and many plants were coming out of the water, as well. It almost made Naruto jealous of people who could live here without fear, and then remembered that they were, in fact, living in fear, just not of the water. They stopped next to a dock, and everyone took that as the signal to get out. The Armin grunted. This is as far as I go. See ya, Tazuna. The man turned on the engine and sped off. Tazuna turned to his group. Well, get me home alive, alright? Kakashi nodded absent-mindedly. Hi. He was more concerned with other matters. You don't realize how hard that's going to be, Tazuna-san. The next ninja to come after us will more than likely be a Jonin of a very high caliber. After all, Gato has more than enough money to hire a whole village for the whole purpose of killing you. After a while of walking into the woods, Naruto stiffened. This feeling. He immediately took a shuriken from his leg pouch and threw it into a nearby bush. Immediately, everyone was on alert. Naruto dashed to the place where his shuriken landed, and found a white rabbit, scared half to death. Oops. It was just a rabbit, guys. He held it up for the others to see. Guess it must have been the fox in me that made me do that. While Tazuna berated Naruto for his stupidity, Hinata took the rabbit in her arms. Ah, poor Usagi-san. Kakashi observed it from a distance. A snow rabbit. So why is it white? And when Naruto stiffened, I could feel the slightest glimmer of killer intent, and not from him, either. He felt another hint of the killing intent. Everyone, get down, now. He gave the order not a moment too soon. As everyone lay on the ground, what appeared to be the world's biggest shuriken flew right through their ranks, curved upwards, and sank itself into a tree. They all looked up at it. It was not a shuriken, but a very large sword, and currently perched on top of the sword was a man whose eyes glowed with anger for not having beheaded them. Kakashi seemed to recognize the man instantly. Ex-Mist Shinobi, Momochi Zabuza. All three genin took ready stances, the rabbit bounding away, but Kakashi waved them off. Stand back. This guy's on a whole other level from the last two. He brought his hand up to where his left eye ought to be. Zabuza growled. Sharingan Kakashi. Sorry, but the old man's head is mine. Orders are orders. All three genin appeared shocked. Naruto's eyes widened. Shush Sharingan. Hinata's ready stance faltered. But Sasuke nearly lost his grip on his kunai. Only the Uchiha have. Kakashi grunted. Alright team, your orders are to surround and protect Tazuna. Do not engage the enemy unless he engages you first. Zabuza, your orders are. Kakashi lifted his Hite-8, revealing a blood-red eye underneath, with 3 comma-shaped tomo seals on the iris, seemingly rotating. To fight with me, and to die. Zabuza chuckled. For you to bring out the Sharingan this early in a fight. I'm honored. I used to keep a handbook of important information back when I worked for Kirikagore, and what it said about you. Kakashi of the Sharingan, copy Ninja Kakashi, the man who copied 1,000 jutsu. Sasuke gulped. With a reputation like that, then his Sharingan must be real. But where did he get it? Only Uchiha were supposed to be able to inherit the Sharingan, as it was a genetic trait. And this man was certainly no Uchiha. Right? Zabuza put his hand on the hilt of his blade. Now then, let's cut the chatter. I have to kill the old man, and you have to kill me to prevent that. I wonder which will happen first. In an instant, both he and his blade disappeared. Hinata activated her Byakugan, and pointed towards a nearby lake. Over there, he's on top of the water. They all looked, and indeed, he was standing on top of the water. Naruto growled. He knew that taking a mission to the land of waves was a bad idea. He just had to open his big mouth. Zabuza took an unusual pose, with his right hand in front of him, and his left arm pointed straight up. Ninpo. Kirigakure no Jutsu. Mist swirled around him, and in a few moments, the entire area was covered in it. Kakashi swore under his breath. Guys, watch out. Zabuza's a master of the silent kill. You won't even notice you're dead until you're in the afterlife. He'll probably come after me first, but I can't use this Sharingan perfectly. Be very careful. An instant later, a voice seemed to emanate from the very mist itself, though the voice was Zabuza's. 8 points. Liver, lungs, spine, clavicle vein, neck vein, brain, kidneys, heart. Which should I go for? All 3 genin were immediately unnerved. Those 8 points were all very fatal. Hinata gulped. I can't see him anywhere. Naruto shifted to his fox form. This mist is too thick, it's eliminating his scent. However, Kakashi did seem to see something, as he immediately threw his hands together to make a seal. The pressure from his chakra caused Sasuke to grip his kunai even tighter. This is the intensity of a fight between Jonin. The pressure's enough to squeeze the life out of me. Kakashi called out to him. Sasuke, don't worry, I'll protect you with my life. I don't let my comrades die. He turned to face them, his eyes closed in such a manner as to suggest he was smiling. We'll just see about that. Zabuza immediately appeared in the middle of the group, and Hinata and Naruto, the former of whom was using her Byakugan, which granted her near 360-degree vision, and the latter of whom was relying on his animal instincts, immediately turned around to try to attack him. However, Kakashi beat them to it, and stabbed Zabuza in the chest. However, this Zabuza melted into a puddle of water, and another Zabuza appeared behind them. Naruto, still a fox, jumped past his sensei and onto this Zabuza's face. Goo! Get off my face! Zabuza began swinging his blade wildly, and sliced Kakashi in half, and Kakashi, too, turned into a puddle of water. Zabuza ripped Naruto off of his face, and stared at the puddle where Kakashi had been. He copied my Mizu Bunshin. Even through the mist? Kakashi appeared behind him, placing a kunai to Zabuza's neck. Don't move, it's over. The bystanders sighed. However, Zabuza chuckled. Over? Please, a copycat like you could never beat the real deal. I'll admit, that was impressive. Copying my clone through the mist. You created your own clone, and made it say those words to get my attention. However, I'm not that easy. A moment later, and Zabuza melted into water. Hinata cried out in fear. Sensei, behind you. Kakashi swore under his mask, and ducked under Zabuza's inevitable sword swing. Zabuza let the sword sail over Kakashi and dig into the ground behind him, and used the sword hilt to push himself towards Kakashi and send him flying with a kick. Before he could follow Kakashi, however, he realized that Kakashi had left Makabishi multi-spiked nails scattered on the ground in his path. Zabuza merely jumped over them and towards Kakashi, who had landed in the water. Kakashi brought his head out of the water, and took a look at his hand. This water, it's heavy! Exclamation mark. Zabuza appeared behind him, standing on top of the water. Fool! I'm a mist ninja. Water is my element of choice. A few hand seals later, and Kakashi was trapped in an orb of water, unable to move. Suiro no Jutsu water prison. Very useful in incapacitating one's enemies. Now then. He lifted one hand, and a clone of Zabuza rose from the water. I'll take care of you later. I have some brats to kill. Naruto, who had already changed back into his human form and rejoined with his team, growled, and pointed to his Hite 8. Brats? I'll have you know that we're ninja of Konohakagore. The Zabuza clone chuckled. Ninja? You think those Hite 8 make you ninja? Let me tell you something. A ninja is someone who has had numerous brushes with death. When you're deadly enough to be in my handbook, then, you may call yourself ninja. The mist thickened again, and Zabuza disappeared. A moment later, and Naruto was sent flying by a kick to the face, his Hite 8 falling to the ground where he stood. Zabuza stomped on it and shifted his weight, burying it a little. Hinata ran over to Naruto, but he brushed her off. Like I said, you guys are brats. Kakashi swore under his breath. Guys, just take Tazuna and run. He can't run with me in here, and his clone can't move far. You don't stand a chance, just run. Naruto growled, a hint of red making it into his irises. I told you, I am a ninja. I'm a shinobi, of Konohagakure no Sato, and I will be its Hokage one day. If I can't beat a guy like this, who has abandoned his village, the way of the shinobi, then I don't deserve to live. He charged at Zabuza, who merely kicked him away. If that's how you feel about it, then why don't you just give in and die? Naruto got up, and held his Hite-8 up proudly. Hey, you eyebrowless freak of nature. Put this in your stupid handbook. The future Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves. Uzumaki Naruto, Konoha no Kitsune. Zabuza chuckled. Kitsune? Ah, so that little fox was your doing. Naruto put his hands together, and 4 clones appeared at his side, specifically 2 small foxes and 2 of the lean hybrids. Zabuza stared at him incredulously. 4 summonings. Just like that? Who is this kid? Naruto smirked. Sasuke, Hinata, get over here. I've got a plan, and I need you for it. Kakashi pressed against the walls of his prison. You guys, I gave you an order. Go now. Naruto grinned. Sorry, sensei. But we'll never leave one of our comrades behind. Even if we're looked down upon as trash by the rest of the world. Kakashi's eyes widened, and Naruto's hair seemed to tinge black in his vision. That speech. It seems history loves to repeat itself. Zabuza chuckled. So, you intend to keep playing ninja? When I was your age. These hands were already stained red with the blood of others. Kakashi glared at him. Zabuza, the devil. Zabuza smiled under his mask. Ah, so you've heard of that. Kakashi grimaced. The reject who killed over 100 academy students, just to prove that he was worthy to join. Zabuza growled. It appears you've heard too much. Sasuke snorted. Killed over 100 kids? Please, I could do that, if I wanted. But you know something? That kind of thing isn't what shinobi do. What we do. One of Naruto's foxes dashed and got on Zabuza's clone's face, temporarily blinding it. In a flash, Sasuke cut it with his kunai down. Cut down our foes, one at a time, skillfully. Massacre is the thing that those without a brain do. He grimaced, as if remembering something. Zabuza snorted. Please, I can make as many of those as I need to. His eyes widened when the second fox appeared in front of his face. Quickly, he swatted it away with his hand, causing it to disappear. However, one of the hybrids was behind it, ready to punch him in the face. Zabuza took the sword from his back and sliced it in half, causing it to disappear, too. Naruto hissed in pain, and Hinata grabbed his shoulder. Are you alright? Naruto nodded. Yeah, just, that sword of his. Something's weird about it, but I can't put my finger on it. Zabuza pointed his sword at the genin. 2 targets down, 6 to go. Not much of a challenge, if you ask me. Naruto grinned. Well, if it's a challenge you want. He reached deep inside himself, and pulled on some of the strength that once belonged to the fearsome Kyuubi no Kitsune. Placing his hands together in the now familiar seal, an entire army of clones appeared out of thin air. Why not try 1,000 targets? Zabuza froze in shock. This many clones. All of them solid. Who is this kid? He shook it off. Bah, whether it be 1 or 1,000, I'll cut all of you down. He held his left hand in front of him, and several clones of himself appeared from the water, swords at the ready. A moment later, and what could pass as the greatest battle the Land of Waves had ever seen began, wave after wave of blonde genin attacking the swordsmen, who cut them down effortlessly. However, the real Zabuza, being distracted, failed to notice the presence behind him until it was almost too late. He pulled his right arm away from his water prison just as the kunai came down, and he was surprised to see Sasuke behind him. Peek-a-boo. Zabuza pulled his fist back, and tried to punch Sasuke in the face. However, his punch was intercepted by Kakashi, who was now free of the water prison. Seems you just got beaten by a bunch of kids playing ninja, Zabuza. Zabuza was visibly angry, and turned to his clones. Immediately, they began performing hand seals, and their arms melted away from in front of them. A moment later, and the entire army of Narutos, along with Hinata and Tazuna, were trapped within Zabuza's giant water prison. The clones all immediately disappeared, and one Naruto remained, who quickly sank to the bottom of the giant orb. Zabuza frowned. That's odd. He shouldn't sink like that, not in the Suiro. He grabbed his sword, and tried to slice Kakashi in half, but the Jonin jumped back further onto the lake. Sasuke dashed past Zabuza, hoping to save his comrades and client. However, when he reached the Zabuzas, they proved quite adept at defending themselves with just their feet. Hinata dived down towards Naruto, fear and concern in her eyes. After using her Hite-8 to bind his mouth and nose, She approached the edge of the prison and glared one of the clones in the face. The Zabuza clone smirked back, obviously amused. It was not amused, however, when Hinata slammed her hand against the barrier, creating a burst of chakra that melted the clone, and caused the dome to grow significantly smaller. She swam over, and began eliminating them one by one, until they were all gone. After gaining her breath back, she ran with Sasuke over to Naruto and Tazuna. Tazuna had already removed Hinata's Hite 8, and was checking Naruto for a pulse. "This is bad, he's gonna need CPR. Either of you guys know how? I forgot ages ago." Hinata froze. Was this some kind of running joke by the gods? She blushed. "Well, I do, but, Sasuke growled. "Fine, I'll do it. But if Naruto ever finds out, you will find there are things far worse than death." A few moments later, and Naruto spurted out the water that had been in his lungs. What happened?" Tazuna frowned. "That jutsu of his activated your curse, and you got knocked out." Naruto nodded. "I see. Then, how come I'm not?" Tazuna smiled. "Your friends here managed to cancel it rather quickly, so no harm done." Naruto nodded again. I didn't need CPR, did I?" Tazuna looked towards Sasuke and Hinata, who were shaking their heads vigorously, but had to stop when Naruto followed Tazuna's gaze. "And no, Hinata made sure none of the water got into your lungs before anything else." Naruto grinned at Hinata. "Thanks, Hinata. I really don't want to waste my first kiss yet. I mean, not that I'd mind, but I want to save it for a special moment, you know?" Hinata blushed, and nodded. The image of Sasuke pinning her to a dungeon wall with kunai kept her from saying anything just as much as the image of Naruto and her kissing with fireworks in the background did. Sasuke growled. "Idiot, CPR doesn't count as kissing." Naruto frowned. "It does if the two people know each other." Before Sasuke could kill Naruto himself, their attention was brought to the lake, where Kakashi and Zabuza were having a stare-down. They quickly went through a series of seals, and two large dragons made of water rose from the lake and crashed into each other. The backwash from the two dragons collapsing nearly knocked the bystanders over. Sasuke stood amazed. Kakashi copied that many seals in so few seconds perfectly. He really does have the Sharingan. As the waters calmed, the spectators could see Zabuza and Kakashi clash NG, their weapons Zabuza's sword and Kakashi's kunai pushing against each other for dominance. They separated, each taking the same pose. Zabuza stared at him incredulously. "Strange, it's almost like he's..." Kakashi's voice finished his sentence. "Reading my movements." Zabuza growled. "What, he can read my mind, too? That freaky eye is pissing me off. Right?" Zabuza became nearly enraged. "You little monkey. All you're doing is copying me." He went from nearly to completely when he realized that those words had left Kakashi's mouth at the same time that they had left his own. I'll make it so you can never copy anyone ever again." He went through several hand seals, but froze when he saw what appeared to be himself standing just behind Kakashi. "Is that me? Impossible. It must be one of his genjutsu." He was further shocked when Kakashi completed the jutsu before he did. "Impossible. I'm the original, so why can't I keep up?" In a moment, the entire body of water they were fighting on seemed to rise up from in front of Kakashi and dashed towards Zabuza, and enveloped him. He couldn't fight against the vicious current, and soon found himself slamming into a tree. The water level lowered, and Zabuza found his right arm and right leg pinned to the tree with kunai. Kakashi appeared on one of the branches of the tree. Zabuza growled. "How? Can you see the future?" Kakashi raised his kunai threateningly. "Yeah, you're gonna die here." A moment later, and two long needles speared Zabuza through the neck. A mysterious masked figure appeared on another branch. You're right. He's dead." Kakashi kneeled next to Zabuza and checked his pulse to make extra sure the man was dead. He knew better than to trust appearances, even if that appearance was two needles through the throat. Kakashi sighed in relief. The man was most definitely dead. The mystery figure bowed. "Thank you very much. I've been waiting to kill Zabuza for quite some time now." Kakashi narrowed his eyes at Zabuza's killer. "That mask. You're a hunter nin from Kirigakure, right?" The person nodded. "You are correct. I am a hunter nin from Kirigakure. It is my duty to hunt down missing nin and dispose of them." Kakashi examined the newcomer. From his voice and height, he was most likely only a little older than his team. And yet he was a hunter nin, an impressive accomplishment. One more thought entered his brain: he's not a normal kid. Naruto kept looking between the hunter Nin and Zabuza. The hunter Nin was obviously confused by this behavior. What's wrong? Naruto grit his teeth. We went through all that trouble just to hurt Zabuza. And then you come along and kill him like it was nothing. You're not much older than we are, and yet. Kakashi patted him on the shoulder. I understand how you feel, Naruto. But listen, there are children younger than you, but stronger than me. Remember that. Naruto gave off a low growl, but nodded. In a whirlwind of leaves, the hunter Nen appeared next to Zabuza's corpse. Since the battle is over now, I'll dispose of the corpse. After all, this body holds many secrets. A second later, and another whirlwind of leaves appeared, and when it disappeared, the two of them were gone with it. Kakashi placed his Hite 8 back over his Sharingan eye. Well, now that that's all said and done, we need to get Tazuna to his place, pronto. Tazuna took a few gulps out of his sake bottle and grinned. Thanks a lot, you guys are great. No, super. Come on, you can relax at my house, it's not far from here. However, before they could get moving, Kakashi collapsed. All present gathered around his prone body. Hinata took out a medkit. Sensei, what's wrong? Kakashi managed to let out a groan before using the last of his energy to talk. Seems I used up too much chakra using the Sharingan. Kakashi groaned as he awoke from his mini coma. A woman was standing over him. She couldn't have been any older than he was. Are you alright, Sensei? Kakashi groaned, and looked around. His team was here, as well as Tazuna. This woman, by deduction, was Tazuna's daughter, Tsunami, whom he had mentioned a couple of times on their trip. I'm alright, I guess. I won't be able to move normally for a week, though. Hinata gasped. I didn't know that the Sharingan carried such a high risk to the user. Kakashi continued staring at the ceiling. Normally, it doesn't. I'm sure Sasuke's seen the Sharingan plenty of times in his past. An image of blood splattering on the walls entered Sasuke's mind, and he shivered momentarily. You're going to have to explain it to us some other time. I want to hear more about that hunter Nen. Kakashi sighed. Right, hunter Nen. Or body erasers. Their job is to kill missing nin and eliminate their corpses, rather thoroughly. A ninja's body holds many secrets. Say, the secrets of the medicine they take, the jutsu they use, the bloodlines they carry. This time it was Hinata who shivered, remembering a Hite 8 with cloud symbols on it. So, by killing those ninja who have abandoned their village and disposing of their corpses, they prevent the secrets of the village from being leaked. Not a trace left. That is a ninja's end. Finally it was Naruto's turn to shiver. He couldn't keep the image of Zabuza's various body parts, in a jumbled pile, being tossed into a fire one by one from entering his mind. The hunter Nen sat by Zabuza's corpse, a roll of tools laid out behind him. He took one tool that was similar to a pair of scissors, but with one handle, and faced Zabuza. First, I'll cut the mouthcloth, drain some blood and... He was shocked when the supposedly dead Zabuza grabbed his wrist and at the same time pulled down on his facial bandages, creating a part in them that revealed his mouth, which was lined with sharp teeth, like a shark's. That's quite alright. I'd prefer to do it myself. The boy sighed. Back to life already, are you? Zabuza grabbed one of the needles in his neck. Che, as always, you were rough with me. He pulled the needle out, causing blood to spurt out of both ends of the hole. The boy tilted his head. That doesn't mean you can be. You'll really die if you're careless. Zabuza pulled out another needle. Why are you wearing that stupid mask, Haku? I hate that thing. Gives me the creeps. Haku pulled off the mask, revealing a most effeminate face complete with makeup. Sorry, needed it for the act. Plus, it reminds me of the old days. Zabuza tightened the wrappings around his neck. Well, did you have to use my neck? There are better acupuncture points. Haku nodded. Maybe. But I didn't want to scar your body. Using a spot you always cover up anyways seemed better. Plus, the muscles in the neck are weaker than in the rest of the body. It was easier to do. Zabuza glared at Haku. Haku merely smiled. You probably won't be able to move normally for a week. Zabuza sighed. Both pure and clever. That's what I like about you. Haku nodded. Well, I am a kid. He looked up. The mist is clearing. His smile turned into a frown. Will you be alright by yourself next time? Zabuza glared at nothing in particular. I will defeat the Sharingan. Kakashi woke up in a flash, and sat straight up. He brought his hand up to his left eye. This feeling. Zabuza's dead, yet. Hinata was worried. What's wrong, sensei? Kakashi glared at the ground. How did that boy dispose of the body? Sasuke frowned. He didn't. Not in front of us. Naruto crossed his arms. Wait a sec. We weren't going to attack him. Why'd he take the corpse away? Kakashi nodded in agreement. If he needed proof that Zabuza was dead, he could have just taken his head. Another thing, the weapons he used. Hinata gasped. Senbon. Kakashi nodded. Right on. The conversation was going on too fast for Tazuna to follow. Wait, what's going on here? Kakashi frowned under his mask. In all likelihood, Zabuza is still alive. Sasuke growled, obviously discontent with the possibility of facing such a monstrous person again. I thought you said he was dead. You checked. Kakashi nodded. Well, as a hunter nin, that boy could easily have faked it. Considering all of the factors, if Zabuza really is still alive, he'll be out even longer than I will. Needles through the neck aside. A momentary death like that takes a lot out of a person. We have 10 days, tops, to get ready for him. Tazuna frowned. Aren't you thinking this through a bit too much? Naruto shook his head. It's our way of life, always be prepared. Besides, this Gato guy's super rich, right? He could hire even more guys like Zabuza if he wanted. Hinata glanced at the floor. Sensei, get ready for him, what do you mean? You can barely move. Kakashi smiled under his mask. By training you guys, of course. Sasuke frowned. You had a tough time with it with your Sharingan. And you expect us to get that much better in a week? Kakashi's smile didn't fade. You guys did extraordinarily well for Genin. I think we can get some good training in. Besides, this is just while I get better. I mean, to defeat him without my help. While I'd be extremely proud if you pulled it off, I prefer to be part of the action. Naruto smiled, his enthusiasm showed. Training, huh? I can't wait. Sarutobi-sensei never did much more than chakra control exercises with me. This is gonna be great. Great? That's not great. All present were surprised at the appearance of a small, dark-haired child, wearing a hat. He did not look pleased. Tazuna, however, was. Inari, where have you been? Come, give your old grandfather a hug. Inari did as told, though with a noticeable lack of enthusiasm. Welcome back, Grandpa. Tsunami kneeled next to the two of them. Inari, say hello to these people. They're the ninja who protected your grandfather from Gatu's men. Inari glanced at them. What's the point? They're just going to die anyways. Naruto growled. What was that? Inari glared at him. There's no way you can defeat a demon like Gato. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Demon? You have no idea who you're talking to. Naruto made to get up, but Hinata grabbed his hand. Naruto, he's just a little boy. Naruto shook off her hand in act that more than got Sasuke's attention. Was he that mad? I don't care what kind of man Gato is. Who am called demon in my village. I vowed to become a hero, the greatest our village the world has ever seen. Even if it means toppling another so-called demon like him. Inari's glare intensified. What are you, stupid? There are no such things as heroes. Sasuke thought he saw a hint of red in Naruto's eyes, but it disappeared just as quickly when Hinata grabbed his arm a bit more forcefully than the last time. Inari moved towards one of the doors. Tazuna reached out to him. Inari. Where are you going? Inari glanced back into the room as he opened the door. I'm going to my room to look at the ocean. Tazuna glanced at Naruto. Sorry. Naruto shook off Hinata once more, and marched out the same way Inari had left. Kakashi sighed. This can't end well. Naruto marched up the stairs that were on the other side of the doorway. He found a door at the top of the stairs that he assumed was probably Inari's room. However, just before he grabbed the door handle, he heard a sob. Naruto stood there transfixed as Inari cried inside of his room, crying for his father. Naruto, now entirely discouraged, decided to leave the boy alone, and walked back downstairs. Kakashi, now on crutches, had brought his team to the forest. Alright, I guess we'll start the training. I wanted to work on chakra control, but I guess you guys know more than enough about that, don't you? Naruto raised an eyebrow. How'd you know? Kakashi sighed. Well, Hinata's a Hyuga, it's pretty much a given that she have very precise chakra control. And I saw Sasuke walk on the water earlier. And you, Naruto, were just complaining earlier about how much the Sandame focused on your chakra control. I would assume you can walk on water, but then again. Naruto frowned. Then again, what? Kakashi sighed. Just remembering back to the bell test, that's all. Naruto immediately knew what he implied with that. That was. You caught me by surprise, that's all. Same thing happened to you with Zabuza, right? Kakashi nodded. Yes, I suppose it did. So, Sasuke, where'd you learn it, then? Sasuke glanced to the side. I picked it up from them, alright? What are friends for? Kakashi smiled, remembering his younger days. Hee, I suppose you're right. But, this does change things quite a bit. I actually wanted to get you guys started on tree walking. But to be this advanced already. You're taking all the fun out of being a teacher. Hinata glanced down ashamedly at the ground. Sorry, sensei. Kakashi sighed. Geez, it's called a joke, Hinata. But, I think I know what I can teach you. He brought out a few slips of paper. Here, channel your chakra through these. The three genin took the slips of paper. Naruto raised it up to the sunlight. These aren't going to explode on us, are they? Kakashi chuckled. They won't explode. Spontaneously combust, maybe, but not explode. Naruto shivered, and held his with the tips of his fingers. Don't worry, Naruto, they can't hurt you. You see, these papers are meant to determine your chakra elements. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. You mean, like how mine is fire? Kakashi turned to him. Just because you're an Uchiha skilled with Kaden Jutsu doesn't mean you're a fire element. For all we know, you could be earth type. Naruto looked at his paper. You mean the 5 elements, right? Fire, wind, lightning, earth, and water. Kakashi nodded. Correct. The paper will react according to your elements. Just channel your chakra already, will you? Naruto gulped, and did as told. A moment later, and the paper was split in 2. He looked to see what had happened to the others. Sasuke's had crumpled, and Hinata's had gotten damp. Kakashi smiled. Well, that's good. I can teach 2 of you how to handle your elements. Naruto, you're the oddball out. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. What? But you said. Kakashi sighed, and gave Naruto the lazy eye. Look, I'm sorry, but I can't teach a wind type. You'll have to get training for that some other time. But, water and lightning, that I can do. Sasuke frowned. But, I thought all Uchiha were. Kakashi sighed. Admittedly, fire or wind would have been a good twist of fate for you. But, at the same time, as you are an Uchiha, they will expect fire attacks and get something else entirely, instead. He then turned to Hinata. As for you, young lady, water is perfect for you. You saw what Zabuza can do with it. I think it would certainly be an advantage to a Byakugan user to blind his opponent, right? And finally he turned back to Naruto. As an offensive type, Naruto, wind is certainly the best choice. It cuts through just about anything. Don't feel bad about it. I'll see to it that you get some training. It'll be a little difficult, as wind is a rare element, but that makes it all the more worth it. Naruto sighed. So, what do I do while you guys train? Kakashi pulled Naruto to the side, and whispered in his ear. Look, I'm not the expert on all things demonic, but your powers seem to be evolving. You should work not only on that, but on your Kage Bunshin, as well. That was a nice stunt you pulled back with Zabuza, making them appear to be summons, but if you train, you'll find that there are many more tricks to be found with them than that. Naruto nodded, his disappointment at not learning how to control the air itself showing. Hi. Kakashi went back to his other students. Alright, I guess we're going to have to go visit the water side, then. We can't do water element training without water, now. As they departed, they didn't, or pretended not to, notice Inari spying on them. He turned back, and a flash of a man's grin appeared in his mind. They're just wasting their time. Zabuza was lying in his bed, staring at the ceiling, with Haku sitting at his bedside. Haku glared at the doorway as Gato and 2 men won. A muscular man named Waraji covered with scars, tattoos, and even an eye patch for his right eye, but no shirt. The other a younger-looking man named Zori, who had long, light hair, covered by a dark cap, with a very baggy jacket. Both had katana at their sides, though Waraji was obviously left-handed. His blade was attached to the right side of his hip, while Zori's was on his left. Amusingly, they were both wearing the kinds of sandals that they shared names with. Gato smirked. So, even you have come back defeated. Mist ninja aren't so great. Gato began walking towards the bed in the center of the large room. You call yourself a devil? You can't even avenge your own men. Zabuza seemed to tense if only the slightest bit, and immediately, Gato's bodyguards got in front of their master, hands ready to draw their blades. Haku tensed. Were they going to attack? However, Gato waved them off, and continued approaching the bed. What's this? Why the silent treatment? Gato reached for Zabuza's neck. How about? His hands stopped when his arm was seized violently by Haku. Don't you dare touch him with your filthy little hands. A moment later, and you could hear the bones cracking in his arm. The two bodyguards immediately began to draw their swords, only to realize that their swords were not in their own hands, but Haku's, and that the blades were pointed at their throats. For a moment they were startled, and then they began to grin. Gato realized what was going on and stopped it before it was too late. One more chance, you hear me? Failure will not be tolerated. Zori, Waraji, we're leaving. As the three of them left, Zabuza sighed. He didn't get the chance to use the kunai he had hidden under the sheets. You didn't have to, you know. Haku smiled. I know. But, it's still too early to kill him. We need his protection, at least for now. Please, be patient. Zabuza sighed. I guess you're right. Sasuke marveled as electricity flowed around his hands. It certainly wasn't powerful, but he could still startle someone with it. He had never imagined such a thing as controlling electricity, and he breathed fire on occasion. Kakashi smiled. Ah, you seem to be getting the hang of it. I'm a better teacher than I thought. And you, Hinata? Hinata, at the moment, had been concentrating on manipulating some water around in the air above her by just using her chakra. Her concentration having been disrupted, she was given an impromptu shower. I'm getting better, but I need to learn how to keep my concentration. Kakashi called out onto the lake. How's it going, Naruto? Naruto ducked a punch from, well, himself. I'm kind of busy right now. Busy might not have been the right word. Out on the lake, an army of Narutos, composed of his three basic forms, were having an all-out brawl. It was certainly good chakra control practice, as well as good taijutsu training, as well as a good way to increase his chakra capacity. Not that he needed it, from Kakashi's point of view. The boy had more chakra than anyone else in all of Konoha. Kakashi thought back to the time Naruto had shown that new form in front of the demon brothers. It was only a little, but he had definitely felt it, the Kyuubi no Kitsune's chakra. It was certainly not hard to miss. Was that creature responsible for the evolution of Naruto's powers? It would certainly explain why Naruto couldn't access them now. The Kyuubi was a being of intense malice. Its power was more than likely brought to the surface before because Naruto had been angry. Now that he thought about it, he felt a tiny bit of it back when Inari had insulted Naruto, as well. If this kept up, Naruto might learn how to control it, hopefully, before it learns how to control him. That's all for now. If you enjoy it, then please like, share and do comments.